Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rewind, episode number 16 for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. My name is Marty Sleva, and I'm joined by Darren Mooney, Jesse Schwab, and producer Eric. Jack is out on assignment doing a lot of very important research on the amount of time that Adrian Brody spoke during his Academy Award acceptance speech compared to the length of The Brutalist, and then comparing that to the length of time that every other Best Actor has spoken to the length of their feature film. So he is currently on assignment doing that.
The reason why Jack isn't here is because Adrian Brody is still speaking.
Adrian Brody is still speaking. He was actually speaking live from Jack's house, and Jack is like, please leave. I have children that I need to take care of and a dog, and you need to get out of here.
This is the real Brody quest.
This is a true Brody quest. But no, we are here excited to chat. Obviously, we're going to start with a little bit of sad news, the passing of, it feels like, are we just getting old that just like every episode's going to be someone I love has died?
Oh, God,
Gene Hackman's passing. We just want to touch. Darren, you wrote a great piece in our your one of your tri-weekly columns. Ooh, tri-weekly. Is that 3 times a week, or is that once every 3 weeks?
Once every 3 weeks. I think it's bi-weekly. Yeah.
I hate those words. I hate those words.
Does it mean 3 times in a or once every 3? Blank.
One of your 220. I saw you have 10 times more columns than I do written in the Patreon. I'm gonna make up for it. You're going on holiday, so if I just post a column every 4 hours, I'll catch up with you.
He's got to build that pantheon of articles.
Yeah.
But like you also actually do work here is the thing. You actually like do streams and like manage and like literally all I do is
let's all give applause for Marty for working.
Yeah. Listen, I do work, and every month I get a paycheck. It's wonderful. It's excellent.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be chatting about Gene Hackman, some of our favorite roles, and a couple folks have asked, like, I don't know a lot about Hackman. Where should I start? And so maybe a couple recos on stuff to watch from his filmography. And then, obviously, apart from what we've been watching over the past couple weeks, we'll also be chatting the Academy Awards, our big topic of the week, which was 2 nights ago. Obviously, sort of spreading the love to a lot of different people, including Sean Baker and Nora, which took home the big prize. But we'll be chatting about the winners, the losers, the show itself, what we thought of Conan O'Brien, and sort of the larger, 35,000-foot view of, like, who are the Oscars for in 2025? Spoilers, one of the answers is me, because I love an award show. Let me tell you, I love snuggling up and watching an award show. But I just see, the numbers are down this year over year, which they tend to be down year over year every year, just as we have a million things vying for our attention at any given moment. But yeah, just talking about sort of the show and how it compares to older ones and what will happen with it going forward. And of course, before we kick things off, thank you so much to everyone watching live. See so many familiar faces in the Green Gang over in the YouTube comments, all the folks listening on your podcast service of choice, and especially all of our patrons. We appreciate each and every single one of you. Jewel Rao, thank you so much for being in the tip jar for a whole year. I can't believe I've never committed a year to anything. I guess this job I've been at for more than a year. But aside from this job, never done anything for a whole year.
Ladies, this is a committed man in chat.
And then Michael Guest of the £5 dono. Thank you so much, Michael. Nora is the only Mikey Madison film where she hasn't been set on fire, and she won an Oscar. Makes you think. I guess that's true. Was she set on fire in Scream?
Spoilers? She was. Her face is burnt on her face.
Oh my God! Scream and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
She loves to scream. It's just like it's in her contract.
It's just listen. She's a modern Scream queen.
Well, take that, Matthew. She's also the first Oscar-winning Ghostface. Thank you. Look,
but she's not in.
Right,
wow, shots fired.
She's not in Daredevil season 2, though, is she? Unlike Matthew Lillard, who's been cast in Daredevil season 2.
I love that she's holding the Oscar and going, "That was the choice." Like that
was. What do I do?
I mean, Daredevil.
Listen. Robert Downey Jr. made the choice. He was like, "Shit." Well, apparently Nolan wanted me to be Poseidon, but I got to be Victor Von Doom for a couple movies.
Is it Poseidon or Neptune? Oh, sorry.
They're the same dude.
They are. A fair point.
One's Greek and one's Roman.
Roman. Yeah.
Yeah. someone in the comments is gonna be like, it's wildly offensive of you to call those
One's
guys
the original, one's the ripoff.
But most important news, obviously, in Odyssey Watch. Darren, did you see the latest casting?
I did not. What is the latest casting?
Latest person to enter the cast, Cosmo Jarvis, one of the leads of Shogun. And let me say, between Cosmo, Mia Goth, Robert Pattinson, and John Leguizamo, we got a bunch of little freaks in this movie, and I am excited.
I mean, you say that as if like he wasn't casting, as you say, Robert Pattinson before this, and he wasn't casting Clement Posey.
All the little freaks.
And he wasn't casting Christian Bale was a little freak as well.
Oh, he's like the little freak. Yeah. I love it because like you got the star power, you got your Hathaways, you got your Hollands, your Zendayas, your Damons, your Therons. Now give us the little freaks.
Like my big fear is that like Cosmo Jarvis was just like Tom Hardy's busy making the new Gareth Evans movie or whatever it is, and it's like, get me the Tom Hardy from Shogun, bring me Tom Hardy as Richard Bruton.
Yeah,
I mean, in the back.
Yeah. Now that you've said that, I can't unthink that. I think that's absolutely. He was like, "Oh, Tom's busy. Well, this guy will do."
Well, you'll be able to tell by how much of like Cosmo Jarvis's face you can see. If it's all of it, the answer is no. He was not subbing in for Tom Hardy. Isn't that the thing with Nolan's relationship to Hardy? He's talked about this, with Cillian Murphy. His big thing was, I want to draw attention to the eyes. That's why if you watch Batman Begins, Murphy's always taking off and putting on his glasses to draw the audience's attention to the eyes.
That's a striking feature.
That's a striking feature. And with Hardy, like Nolan said, he set himself a challenge progressively as the movies went on, after Inception and then obviously The Dark Knight Rises and then finally in Dunkirk. How much of this man's face can I cover? Yeah. And how much will he be able to do just with his eyes? So
I literally forgot he was in Dunkirk because like it's ostensibly just not him.
Yeah, no, it's like 1 second of shot. Like, and again, he could have done the Pedro Pascal, or he could have done the Robert Downey Jr. presumably in Endgame, but instead, like he was actually there. He was actually physically there.
What if he plays a Cyclops? He's just one big eye.
Like, I'm surprised it's not Cillian Murphy just superimposed. Like, it's not just Cillian Murphy in an eye patch. Yeah.
Cillian's like, honestly, I don't want to. I already had to leave Ireland to give this fucking acceptance or the award speech at the Oscars. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to leave again. Which, listen, as somebody doesn't like,
I might be in a 28 later sequel or something. I don't know. Yeah, it might be. Who knows?
I might have been that little zombie, and then some people were like, "No, he's not the little zombie. He's someone else." I'm very excited for that movie. And then Bookworm, I see your super chat. We'll say that for once we get to the Oscars shortly. But talking a little bit about the passing of Gene Hackman. I don't think we need to go into this sort of tabloidy, what is going on, because we still don't actually know exactly what was going on. But the important thing is that he had a phenomenal career. And Darren, you talked about it really eloquently in that Patreon post recently. So what was your sort of thoughts on Hackman looking back after his passing?
Well, again, the same thought that you mentioned at the start, which is the fear that like this is what the next 10 to 20 years of my life will be, which is saying goodbye to these people. He was 95 years old, had a phenomenal inning, an incredible career. Also, like, one of the things I noticed is that like because he retired with like Welcome to Mooseport, one of the great last movies in the history of cinema, right about 2004. He is like a relic of a bygone age where, like, when you saw the obituaries of, say, Max von Sydow or William Hurt, it was like Game of Thrones, Star Wars, MCU stars. Whereas Hackman's obituaries are no, he is still best known for doing the new Hollywood stuff that he began with. Hackman is interesting to me because I came of age during the 90s. So I came of age with the kind of the two-hander Hackman era where, there were two things that Hackman was doing in the 90s. First of which was he was just making Westerns like nobody's business.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was just hanging around like The Quick and the Dead, and he's popping up in Wide Earp. Like, he won his Oscar for Unforgiven. And the other thing that he did was he was like the two-hander guy. And, again, maybe reasons for this is he's slightly older than some of his contemporaries. He also looked older than his contemporaries, but he kind of settled into the old man role quite quickly. So you had this spate of movies during the 90s where you would just pair him with a younger actor. And it would basically be like, put Hackman on screen with somebody from a generation younger than him, whether Denzel Washington, Crimson Tide is the gold standard, Will Smith in Enemy of the State, Chris O'Donnell in The Chamber, very much out of his depth, Hugh Grant in Extreme Measures, deciding that's not what Hugh Grant wants to do with the rest of his career, even something like, say, Behind Enemy Lines with like Owen Wilson and arguably Ray Romano and Malcolm Mooseport. But the idea is you put a younger actor on screen with Hackman, and if they can give as good as they get, or even if they can just hold their ground against him, you have a star on your hands. And I think like that is how I kind of came of age with Hackman, is looking at him and going, that is the standard by which I measure like a screen persona. Not even necessarily like your ability to perform or act. I don't think like, Will Smith or Tom Cruise are necessarily like the greatest actors who ever lived, but in terms of like movie star persona, I think that like Tom Cruise is a movie star, Will Smith is a movie star, and you can see it in The Firm or you can see it in Enemy of the State because they can hold the screen against Hackman as a force of nature. And so that is kind of how I came to Hackman. And then obviously as I got older, went back and dug into the 1970s stuff where he was just, again, this incredibly like paradoxically charismatic performer where, the 1970s we talked about at the end of the studio system, the end of the traditional Hollywood leading man, where like you started seeing more diverse faces entering film. You started seeing people like, say, Dustin Hoffman or Al Pacino or Robert De Niro, people who were, to be clear, very handsome, but not very handsome in the way that like the 1940s, 1950s stars had been, who had like character in their faces. And Hackman, for me, was like one of the epitomes of that kind of style where like I rewatched The French Connection after I heard that he passed. And like that, The French Connection is remarkable for being, again, Friedkin kind of described as a docudrama set in 1970s New York. It's one of the great movies that captures the feel of 1970s New York, where it looks like if you touch a TV that is playing The French Connection, you'll get like some sticky soot on your fingers.
Yeah.
And Hackman just feels, Hackman feels like he belongs in that world. He so perfectly embodies like the spirit and the vibe of that moment in culture. And yeah, just a phenomenal performer and just fantastic to see him. And he did make terrible movies. Anybody who works as hard as Hackman works makes terrible movies.
Sure.
But I think he was always credible. He was always doing the work. And he was always like, even in Superman 4, he knew what the assignment was and he was giving it what it needed. So yeah,
that was the quest for peace. That was the assignment.
And we as a world have achieved it. Great job, world.
Well done. And I think we can put that all down to Gene Hackman.
He's also he's one of those guys where almost in every decade he was acting, he had a movie like I would so wholeheartedly recommend from early stuff like Scarecrow and The Conversation into those 90s like westerns you talked about in the Grisham adaptations to is Royal Tenenbaum, like that's one of my favorite movies of all time, and he is so good in it.
Like just consistently and never like looking down his nose and stuff. Like he's talked about he talked about his early career where like for years he failed to gain traction. He was voted like least likely to succeed. He would talk about working as a doorman or working as a busboy and meeting people from either his career beforehand in the military or meeting people who had like gone to the Pasadena Playhouse and were like so, smug about, oh, well, Hackman, we told you were never going to amount to anything. And this kind of massive chip on his shoulder, which maybe contributed to the reputation he had for not being the easiest guy to work with. Famously, he terrified Wes Anderson. The story is that Angelica Houston had to work as kind of a mediator between the generations there. I think Barry Sonnenfeld, who worked on like Get Shorty, was like the only actor who ever terrified me. There was a story I think Sonnenfeld told, I don't know if it was after the passing or in like a book that he wrote about his filmography, but the story he tells about like at the after party for Get Shorty where like Gene Hackman comes over to him and Gene Hackman takes him by the hand and shakes his hand and says, look, Barry, I want to tell you something. It's a great movie. You made a great movie. And Barry's like, thank you. But Hackman's like, don't interrupt me. Let me finish here. I said, you made a great movie. A fantastic movie. I didn't know you had it in you. And Barry's like, you don't need to keep going. It's like, no, I thought you were incompetent. If I had known you could make a movie I wouldn't have been such an asshole to you. Which is just great. I kind of like,
but like subtle things.
Yeah.
But like he would work with the best of them. As you said, he would do the Grisham stuff. He did sequels. He did Superman 2, the Donner cut. He did Superman 4. He would like do westerns. He just seemed to like working. Like when I went through his filmography, I think I mentioned in the piece, there's like between 1971 and 1975, he makes 12 movies, of which he's the lead in like 10 of them, and the other one is like Young Frankenstein or whatever. In like 1985, he's like, you know what? I'm just tired hanging around the house. I'll make 5 movies in 1985. Just love to work. Incredible performer. So.
Yeah, even like looking at something like Superman, which is, it's like what, like the first like big comic book movie. I mean, obviously there might have been like Phantom or something before that. But just having someone play such a big character like Lex Luthor really kind of set the standard for comic book villains, moving forward into like the 80s and especially like mid to late 90s. Like you said, with his just I think really nailed by just talking about his credibility. I think really like bleeds through all of his roles. Like it's hard to see him not in those roles. Like if they were replaced with someone else. Like I watched Unforgiven last night, where Clint Eastwood is like, I need you to play this character. Like this is for you, and see him playing this almost like I guess kind of in relation to Superman, like a bizarro, almost John Wayne character. Like I thought, like this guy is terrifying. he is scary, man.
Yeah, hit the head with this thing of it didn't seem like he was above anything. He wasn't above playing Lex Luthor. He wasn't above like Hoosiers. He wasn't above voicing in Ants or being in a young director's movie around. That was pretty. I like that he didn't see
robot.
Yeah, Marty, I think he may have gone staticky. Oh, have we lost Marty? I think we lost Marty.
No. Talked too much about Gene Hackman and he got hacked.
He got hacked, man. But no, like I think that you mentioned like Unforgiven. The thing about Unforgiven that is phenomenal is that like you're introduced to Robert Harris there, and Harris is like coming to town. It's a Fancy Dan is the name of the character, and he's all like eloquent and sophisticated. And Hackman literally just shows up and messes this guy up and like kicks him out of town, leaving him like this bloody tangled like bloody mess. And it's the vibe is very much to like Marty's pointed to your point. It's like this is the authentic American West. This is like the spirit and embodiment of like what this place is. And as he comes in and he does the work. He doesn't make a big show of it. And like you're right, I think Unforgiven is for me like a quintessential Hackman movie. It's the one he won his second Oscar for after French Connection, because like there is that authenticity to it. And again, so much of that movie is that. Like that's what Morgan Freeman is in that movie. That's what Clint Eastwood is in that movie. But yeah, Hackman just being like, I will mess you up if you cross my path. I will go through you like you're Barry Sonnenfeld, which is just incredible. Oh, we're still missing Marty. But like, do you have a favorite Hackman movie, Jesse?
Ooh, I mean, I feel like all of my favorites are like everyone else's favorites, just his level of being able to really understand the role without making it too overboard. Even something with like Lex Luthor or him in the French Connection, right, where he is a bit of a ruffian. I don't know if the tagline is right when they say, "Oh, he's a good cop." It's maybe it's of the times, perhaps. Go watch original. Maybe it's been edited on streaming services.
Oh, it has Disney Plus. They did back in, but they did remove some of the racial slurs from the movie. But yeah, like I think there is something kind of gritty. And the thing is, you watch The French Connection, and he's next to, is it Roy Scheider? Is the name? The guy from Jaws, obviously, the guy from Sorcerer, like one of the great guys. He pops up in Clute as well. But like you put like Scheider and you put like Hackman in the same frame, and it's the same effect you have when you put Harris next to him, where Hackman just seems more lived in. There's a bit where like Scheider goes to his apartment and he's like just lying. He doesn't have a bed. He's lying on the couch. He's handcuffed to the couch, but he's like covered in Cheeto dust. He's like covered in little bits of like dirt and grain and kind of scruffy. It looks like there's like dryness at the corner of his mouth you could pick at if you wanted to, which is not how movie stars used to look. And it's not how movie stars generally looked in films until that point. So like, again, just incredible work from Hackman. I mean, what do you think about like his filmography? The fact that he kind of stopped when he did. Because he said it was a heart condition. A doctor told him if he kept working, he would have a heart attack, which I can believe if you're making 5 movies in a year. But like, it is interesting that he never got his Old Man and the Gun. He never got like a movie where, somebody goes down and tracks him down and drags him back out of retirement and says, we got one last Gene Hackman movie. Like, do you think that affects his legacy?
I don't know, because I feel like his legacy is ultimately, like the filmography that he did do, that he left, as well as just, him as a person. You look at some of his previous films, like Runaway Jury, which
was him and Hoffman, reunited the old like roommates.
Which I recall when back in in film school, actually kind of pre-film school, our classroom had this giant poster of the Runaway Jury like right in the front. So like every day I'm just looking at Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman right there. You look at even like anything from like the 2000s, really, Royal Tenenbaums, probably a lot of people like to point to, where he just plays this just like nasty father figure. And, if that's not like a good way out, if he sees these films and goes, like I'm satisfied, I'm accomplished with this. We see with like some of the other actors too. Like Sean Connery kind of stopped. Fairly early on.
Yeah, around the same time as well.
So like if he had continued, who's to say he wasn't going to work on another 100 movies in a decade? I don't think they would have made an Ants 2, but maybe it's for the best.
Why did anything happen to the other guy in Ants? Oh, and the other guy. Wait, was it Spacey and?
No, Spacey was the villain in A Bug's Life. Spacey was A Bug's Life, and Woody Allen was in Ants, because those movies are so perfectly mirrored.
Yeah,
that you have to have
each movie. They're like, we need a Lex Luthor in this movie.
That's it. Thank you for saving me, Marty, from anything potentially defamatory. Lest we be directly addressed by a shot of Kevin Spacey carving a turkey, talking to the camera in a southern accent. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it ends with the ta-dum noise. And you're like, oh no, that's what that was from?
Yeah, I was about to say, I didn't realize that until somebody pointed it out. The da-dum sound from Netflix is the banging of his fist against the table at the end of is it the first season of House of Cards?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
And it's like, if you go to Netflix now, they're like, no, we intended that to be the sound effect that it makes when you like close the laptop after you finish watching Netflix. That's what that is. Don't ask any further questions. Yeah, don't ask any further questions.
Just stop it. That's great. I assumed when I was dead, you guys just talked about Welcome to Mooseport a bunch.
Yeah. Ray Romano, like being acing that text. It's like, if you're ranking the actors who played opposite Hackman, I think you go like, you start with like O'Donnell, then you maybe bump up to Wilson, then Grant, then it's like Smith, it's Denzel, and then finally at the very top, it's Romano. Yeah. Romano, like I think that was it. Hackman was just like, I can't compete. They finally
kind of rude you didn't save space for Jason Lee and Heartbreakers. Starring Jennifer Love Hewitt, who was very important to me in the year 2001, let me tell you.
I was about to say, like, Jennifer Love Hewitt probably should count as well. Although, again, she's playing off Sigourney Weaver there as well.
That's true.
This is the thing.
What a pair.
Again, we talk about movie stars, and I don't want to go down the tangent of, like, why we don't make movie stars anymore. But, like, that rite of passage, the Hackman rite of passage, was, like, something that was essential to making movie stars, where, like, Tom Cruise's entire 90s career is variations on that, where it's like, put me in a movie with Paul Newman and I'll prove I can hold the screen with him. Put me in a movie with John Voight and I'll prove I can hold the screen with him. Put me in a movie with Hackman, I prove I can hold the screen with him. And that doesn't really happen anymore, where like when it does, it's something weird like Captain America Brave New World, where Anthony Mackie's like, put me in, coach, I can take Harrison Ford. But it does feel like many of Hackman's contemporaries didn't go down that route. I know we can point to like Al Pacino doing The Recruit with Colin Farrell, but it's not like, I don't consider Dirty Grandpa starring like Robert De Niro to be like, finally, Efron's going to test his mettle against De Niro. It is a shame that we lost those kinds of movies.
We really did, didn't we?
Yeah. Again, just the changing Hollywood ecosystem. These aren't the kind of movies we make anymore. We don't make movies like The Color of Money. We don't make movies like the movies that used to star Gene Hackman. We don't make John Grisham adaptations anymore. We don't really make westerns anymore.
We don't welcome anyone to Mooseport anymore. I called it Newsport. That's not good. That's a different city. That's a bad city. Don't go to that city.
The mayor there is Kevin James, is it?
He's doing his move.
He's got his little hands in his pockets, like shrugging.
Kevin James. That being said, Paul Blart, Mall Cop. Best movie about a mall cop. No, Observe and Report was better.
I was about to say,
second best movie about a mall cop.
No, the second best is Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
They made a sequel. Look at that.
Yeah, there's a sequel.
Which one has Bobby Cannavale in? Is it one or two?
There's really no way to know. No one's ever actually watched those movies. So there's actually no IMDb page for either of them. No one's ever made it all the way through.
I'm just sad they never made a third one called Paul Blart Walmart. That's just been my headcanon for like years.
Walmart. I like that.
It rings so well.
Mm-hmm. That's a Super Bowl commercial, Jesse. You need to go to Walmart and get that Kevin James money.
That Kevin James money. A couple of super chats relating to this before we move on to the Oscars. Vactor, thank you so much for a $2 dono. Shout out to Gene and the Quick and the Dead. Yeah, some people were asking again what to recommend if you like westerns. That little sprint that we were talking about in the '90s between Unforgiven, Wyatt Earp, and Quick and the Dead. It's hard to go wrong with any of them.
And he also did Geronimo as well. He was in Geronimo.
That's right. Yeah.
That would rank lower of the set. I think like if you got the right order, it's Unforgiven, it's Quick and the Dead, and then it's and then it's Wyatt Earp. With all due respect to Costner.
He's fine. He just ruined his marriage to try to make those 4 movies, but everything's fine. He's still got Yellowstone, right? Oh no! Oh no! What happened? What is he gonna do now? Are they gonna make all 4 of those movies? The second one is done, right?
The second one is done. The second one has actually screened. It was at the Santa Fe Film Festival a couple of weeks ago. I did put in a budget request to Second Wind to ask if you guys would fly me out to Santa Fe just for that one screening. But yeah, so that is screened. It exists. The rumor is that like the first one is doing really well on streaming. I think like again, this is the weird situation that like Warners are in where they bought Horizon 1 and 2, released it in cinemas and it bombed, sent it to Max and it bombed, and now have licensed it to Netflix, where unsurprisingly, like everybody's uncle is like, it's like a quarter of a season of Yellowstone.
Exactly. Yeah, it is more and more I'm realizing when I just assume everyone has every streaming service. And if I recommend someone something that isn't on Netflix, they're like, oh, I'll wait till it's on Netflix. I'm like, well, I don't think Severance is ever going to be on Netflix. Although who knows? Who knows what happens with Apple? I don't know. Weirder things have happened.
Not to put too fine a point in it, but like Dune Part 2 exploded this year, and I think part of that is down to Dune Part 1 being on Netflix at the time it came out. Sorry, Jesse.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I once met someone who thought his wife cheated on him with Kevin Costner.
Turned out it was just Saul Goodman.
Yeah, no. I'm actually currently watching through that. No, there was. I was filming a commercial in South Dakota, and where Dances with Wolves was filmed, and there's a guy being like, "Yeah, you see that mountain in the distance of her? Kevin Costner, like I guess lives or some. I had like some house there." And he's like, "I'm pretty sure you try to make a move on my wife."
I like that Costner's just living the dream in South Dakota, just like trying to ruin relationships. One Friday night at a time.
You had to mortgage that ranch to make Horizon. Sometimes you got to give up your dreams to chase other dreams.
You know what movie was pretty good? Open Range. I thought the movie was pretty good. I haven't seen it since theaters, and I don't think I've thought about it since theaters until this moment. Pretty good movie.
It's a movie I'm probably going to watch 20 times when I'm 60. It's one of those movies like Triple Frontier where it's like I watch I'm like, that's fine, but like I can tell there's going to be a point where I'll be like, nothing doing tonight. Guess I'm watching Open Range.
Oh, it's gonna hit hard.
Not to be confused with Home on the Range.
No, very different.
Very different movie.
We'll also hit hard in our 60s though. And then James Morgan with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, James Morgan. I love Gene Hackman. The Birdcage seems quaint now. Yeah, it's funny. I remember that movie being like a pearl clutching moment for some audiences, whereas now you look back on it and you're like, oh, this is like very sweet. This is like very sweet and innocent.
Again, an American remake of a French movie, The Cage au Fall, isn't it? If I remember correctly.
That's right. Yeah. Look at that. See,
it's great. It's great. Like people talk about like French cinema as if it's black and white art house, beret wearing, cigarette smoking, and wine drinking. What 90% of it is like sexual harassment movies.
Yeah.
If you say any movie in French, I would think that's like the original version of a film.
Yeah.
Just say the
Abre
title.
los ojos, open your eyes. We're allowed to make we're allowed to make these broad sweeping judgments about France because, as I've noted, I'm not sure if we have a single French person in the audience, and I keep on every podcast or stream, I keep saying, where is our French contingency? And I want to know. We got them from every other country in Europe. No French.
They're being scared away by our generalization. First is of France as an art house cinema, and then it's French. It's like a kind of
but like
when
Yahtzee and Jay aren't around, I generalize England a bunch, and it's fine. They still show up.
Blue.
And then, but yeah, R.I.P. Gene Hackman, incredible career, great movies. If one movie to recommend people to watch this weekend of his. What would you say?
I love Westerns, so I feel like I have to say Unforgiven, but I do feel like a lot of people's answers would be like, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's arguably, it's probably my favorite of his movies, or along with Tenenbaum.
I think it's maybe his best. Like again, I think it's maybe his best movie again, along with Tenenbaum.
Yeah.
I would say like I love his 2 Tony Scott collaborations. I love Crimson Tide. Like the climax of Crimson Tide, which is on a nuclear submarine, is quite literally just Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman sitting down while Gene Hackman smokes a cigar and is like ambiguously racist by the standards of 90s movies. Yeah. And it is the most incredible thing. Like I would probably go with Crimson Tide. I do also love like The Conversation and Enemy of the State, which are just like 2 perfect. The Enemy of the State is like a loose sequel to The Conversation in terms of spirit, where like Brill is obviously meant to be the character from The Conversation, but it's also just like a perfect encapsulation of like where American mainstream cinema went, where in 1974 it looked like The Conversation, and in the late 90s it looked like Enemy of the State. So that double feature I think is fun as well.
I think slightly before The Conversation, he made Scarecrow with Dustin Hoffman, Dustin Hoffman, or not Dustin Hoffman, Pacino, where the 2 of them are buddies who go on a road trip from California to somewhere on the East Coast, and it's just like almost like a 2-hander the entire movie, and the 2 of them in their young primes, just like absolutely chewing it up. Really, really phenomenal stuff. I watched that during COVID for the first time and was really, really impressed by it. So check out Scarecrow.
And Bonnie and Clyde as well, actually. Like he was in the first New Hollywood movie.
Right. Yeah. What a career. Holy smokes.
Just insane. Jesus. Like, and the fact he stopped, the fact he like they gave up on fair, but the fact he was like, I'm done, I'm out. And it's like, that is still an incredible body of work. He could have continued going for another 20 years. And I'm sure he would have produced gems in that. I mean, look at like Eastwood's career, but it is like, it's a hell of a thing to put the ball off the court and go, no, that's my statement, buddy. I've done it. Like,
even the fact that he's just like, oh, Gene Hackman died. I mean, he was 95, but like, wow, that says a lot about him.
Yeah, where you left him. A friend of mine jokes that Gene Hackman was like born looking 40 and never got older.
He was one of those guys you can't imagine like as like looking young, like looking like a 20-year-old.
There's a photo on his Wikipedia page of like his service stuff, and it's not Gene Hackman. Like it's just not. It's wrong. It's like
different man.
It's like Doug. It looks like Doug.
It's always like the Wilford Brimley thing of like who is the age of Wilford Brimley in Cocoon, and it's like, oh, Paul Rudd is now older than Wilford Brimley in Cocoon. You're like, nope, that's not how humans work at all. But Gene Hackman, one of the to segue into our main topic was Morgan Freeman came out during the Oscars and spoke eloquently about his friend Gene Hackman, who obviously they worked together in a couple of movies, including Unforgiven, and that kicked off the in memoriam segment. But we're going to talk more about the Oscars as a whole, I guess, including that segment of some folks they left out and some folks they might have glossed over. But I guess as just like a top down highlight, Darren, starting off, what did you think of the Oscars this year?
I mean, Conan O'Brien should host every year is the obvious answer to that.
Yes.
I saw somebody comment online, and it's an observation I would generally agree with, is what if we got this year's Oscar production with last year's movies? That would be the perfect ceremony. But no, I thought it was a nice ceremony. I liked again. O'Brien loves movies. He's
and you
just
can
one of,
tell, and you can tell
yeah.
he watches the movies and he actually enjoys them. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was a single quip about movies being too long. Like even the Brutalist didn't get a joke, I think, about how
Yeah.
long it was. Whereas last year it was just like, man, these movies are so long and it's such a chore, isn't it? Whereas like here he's like, no, let me make a joke about like the plot of Anora. Let me like reveal that I've been paying attention to these movies. And again, just great to see.
He's a jokester, he's a huckster, but he's respectful.
Yeah.
And
he's also smart as hell. Like, I mean, he's
he went to Harvard.
And like he wrote some of the greatest Simpsons episodes of all time. I think he's probably the best late night host ever, even though he got unceremoniously boned by Leno. But I like that he brought some of that energy to the show with like the having the Dune worm come out and continue
playing
to
the synthesizer.
His musical number was straight up monorail.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. You could see that in there. So yeah, from a hosting standpoint, I thought he was great. Like the only other name in recent contention that like John Mulaney's name gets thrown around because he's given such incredible. I think he's hosted like the Independent Spirit Awards and like has given incredible speeches at these shows and clearly is also smart and watches the movies and punches up, doesn't punch down, that kind of thing.
But like last year when he gave, like again, the best 10 minutes of the Oscars last year were where you went from, what was it? It was like the performance of I'm Just Ken with like, with Ryan Gosling, which incredible. Is reason enough to like not do the songs this year is like, you're never going to match the energy of Gosling doing Ken. So maybe like
and for them to be, well, how about we just let the
Amelia Perez
do something at the beginning? Yeah. Oh no, not the Amelia Perez. Oh, let's just have the person who wrote the song very awkwardly sing it.
That was oof.
But like the 10-minute best 10 minutes last year were going into Mulaney presenting best sound and the surprise win of like Zone of Interest in best sound. And like Mulaney does feel like he would be the perfect choice for it. The rumor is he turned it down. The rumor is he was offered and turned it down. But like, I thought O'Brien was phenomenal.
Yeah, completely agree. He's also, I know Mulaney's doing like a weekly live show on Netflix starting this week. So maybe part of it is I don't want to have to plan for two big live things at the same time, which I get. What did you? So they nailed one thing. The host, we got it. Okay, we're great. What did you think of the winners of sort of how things rolled out themselves, or do we have to roll back to what did you think of the nominees? I guess.
Again, like it was a tough year for Hollywood with the strikes and everything kind of coming out. I was a little disappointed. Again, look, the most boring Darren take. I was disappointed that like Dune Part 2 wasn't treated as a serious contender. And I'm a little bit, as much as these things matter, which they don't, a little bit concerned that like Dune Messiah, having read it, is not going to be Return of the King, no matter how many people tweet out that, oh no, Dune is performing exactly as well as like The Two Towers did at its Oscar ceremony. I actually think I like I like all four of the acting nominees or winners. Like I think that, like again, same situation as last year with actress, where like I would have picked another actress from that bunch for like cultural historical reasons. I would have loved to have seen Gladstone win last year. I would have loved to have seen Moore win this year, but also at the same time, like the performance in Poor Things is incredible. And I don't like, as much as we quantify the quality of art, I don't begrudge Emma Stone winning for Poor Things any more than I begrudge like Mikey Madison winning for Anora, where I think that is the best thing about that movie by a country mile. I think like Chalamet is going to win like a Leo-esque Oscar at some point down the line. And honestly, I think, we're at the stage where it's still kind of funny to withhold it from him and to see what he does next to try and win it. Like we're not quite at the stage where he's going to eat raw bison liver and almost die on set. So I don't mind that. I actually found myself very charmed by Adrian Brody being like, I am going to give the most actor brain speech imaginable because he does, like Chalamet, actually care. Like this is the thing about the Oscars this year, people actually care about movies, and that's great to see. Saldana, like let's divorce the movie from like Saldana, but Saldana is an actress who made everybody in that room hundreds of millions of dollars, and to be quite frank, has never gotten like the respect that she deserves from the industry for being like the leading actor in two of the three biggest movies of all time, and being a reliable like franchise hand for like Star Trek and for Guardians of the Galaxy, and like never being elevated in the way that like her male co-stars were, like Chris Pratt was, for example, like Chris Pine was, for example. Hell, even like they tried to do with Sam Worthington, nobody tried to do that with Saldana. So I think
Remember that
Saldana's
moment where we tried to make Sam Worthington a thing?
yeah. And then Australia was like, maybe the problem was he was too charismatic. How'd you like try Jay Courtney? But like I thought that. Sorry, that's mean, and I apologize to Jay.
That's who Christopher Nolan cast for the Odyssey when he
can't get Sam Worthington. But like I think Saldana like deserves the Oscar for the work she's done for the industry as a whole or whatever. And then obviously Culkin. I thought Culkin was phenomenal. Like I really loved Culkin in A Real Pain, and that movie is really great, and it was great to see it celebrated. And also just like the below the lines. It was nice to see the show take the time to let people below the line like collect awards on stage and be celebrated for the work that they do. So broadly speaking, like that's what I like in terms of winners. Honora, I am like less fond of Honora than most people seem to be, but I'm gonna be like the dignified loser. And like people seem to be happy that it won, and I'm glad people are happy that it won. It did not work for me. It would be in the bottom quarter of nominees for Best Picture for me, but people like it, and that's cool.
Yeah, like Honora was one of my favorite ones, but I was surprised I won Best Picture as well. You know, like even Best Actress, like I figured it'd win some awards. Yeah, I feel like myself and a lot of people were kind of expecting Demi Moore to win Best Actress. But I was talking to my roommate, and he goes, "Well, yeah, she was only in half the movie." Like, yeah, I guess if you want to be technical, what a half movie that was.
Yeah, I rewatched The Substance a couple nights before the Oscars, and like, holy shit, that's a performance! Like, holy shit!
Like, can we just acknowledge, like, I know people grumble about the Oscars, and I know there's a lot of criticism about where the awards go and who we expect to win and how predictable it is. This year they nominated The Substance and Nickel Boys, right? Which are like two, in very different ways, boldly experimental films outside the comfort zone of these kinds of awards. Where even I think 10 years ago they would have nominated Dune Part 2. I think as much as I may have groused about like this year's slate of nominees not being as good as last year's slate of nominees, I think the fact that you nominated Substance for Best Director, Best Picture, and Best Actress on top of like below the line awards is incredible. And it's the kind of thing that I love about the new Academy.
I want to see more like it. Get more of those weirdy, splooshy, Toxic Avenger movies out there.
Yeah,
we need more splooshies.
And like, what's insane is Universal turned it down. Like, not to turn this into the Substance podcast, but like Universal had The Substance, asked Farge to like tone down the gore, and Farge took it out to, did it end up at Neon? Was that where it ended up?
Mubi.
Oh, Mubi. It ended up at Mubi.
Not Tubi though.
No, I will be subbing in for Jack. I do have a To Be Fair in the pocket.
Wonderful. Yeah, Vactor with a $2 dono earlier said Vulture's tagline was "And the Oscar goes to Sue," which it did kind of feel like a lot of people made that joke of. It felt like Demi Moore lost the Oscar to her younger self that was like born from her.
It does feel like the culmination of like the arc of the movie is like Demi Moore failing to win an Oscar for the movie.
Yeah. I think I'm a little in between you guys on Honora. To me, it was like a nice middle of the pack of this year's nominees, but not one of those winners where I'm like rolling my eyes, like, what the fuck are we doing here? Yeah. Like Green Book.
Yeah, I definitely watched it. I'm like, it definitely gave me very like Uncut Gems vibes, just like the manic energy throughout. And I feel like it was the kind of situation where they must have watched it and thought, we could do that. That's great. Why haven't more people jumped on like this kind of experimental style?
Yeah, this capturing the after hours, one crazy night kind of vibe to it, which I thought that section of the movie actually worked the best.
Yeah,
The first third and the final third, save for maybe the final scene, didn't land quite as hard for me. But I love that little kind of madcap romp in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, that's exactly my problem with the movie, is that like the bit where it is like Sean Baker tapping into his cinephilia and going, I want to make a Frank Capra or a Howard Hawks-esque kind of like social commentary, screwball rom-com in the style of It Happened One Night or Bringing Up Baby. That's the point where the movie is roaring to life and I'm entirely with it and I'm bored with it. The problem is, as you say, like those comedies are 80 minutes long and are incredibly quick moving. And in this movie, you have 50 minutes before those 80 minutes and 20 minutes after those 80 minutes. And I remember being in the cinema watching it and just feeling the energy kind of drain out of me. Because I also think like one of my big issues with it is that without wanting to do the whole, oh, let's talk about the character making mistakes, is that like as an audience member, from the moment the film starts, I know exactly how it's going to end. And the film spends 50 minutes trying to convince me that it's not going to end that way, even though I know it is. So when it ends that way, not only am I angry that it ends a way that I saw it was going to end, because that doesn't matter. I don't mind predicting an ending. The movie spent 50 minutes going, no, 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 no. Don't be cynical. It's not going to end cynically. And I'm sitting there in my chair going, of course it's going. It's the only way a story like this is going to end, and an only way a Sean Baker version of a story like this is going to end. So don't spend the energy, don't waste my time by trying to convince me that it's not going to end the way that we all know it's going to end. That's like my big issue with like Anora. It's like it just. I hate being the movies are too long guy because I don't generally believe that, but I think the way Anora uses its time really frustrated me narratively.
Did you see? Was that one of your Cannes movies?
It was indeed. I saw both The Substance and Anora at Cannes.
Did you see Emilia Perez?
I did on the Sunday morning when I had like my stomach bug and stomach flu.
I'm sure that made it better.
Are they related? Who knows?
Who could possibly? My second screening of The Substance on the Sunday as well, because on the Sunday they rescreen the entire festival so you can catch up, which is nice of them. But yeah, no. So I saw like Emilia Perez, I saw Anora, and I saw The Substance. I saw Anora and The Substance on like the opening nights, which is a great way to see movies where there's no expectations for them going in. And like it's just interesting that like on The Substance, I was like, there's like, I love this. This is a movie for me, for sickos and freaks like me, and having no idea where that movie was going to go in the next like 12 months. Like sitting me down after that came out, I was like, that is my favorite movie of Cannes. Like that, you know, and then obviously, thank you, Eric. That's where the movie goes. But like sitting there, and going like, this is for sickos like me. This is going to be a midnight movie. We're going to recommend it to people, and it's going to be like a low key hit. You know, we'll be whispering about it for years. And then on the other hand, going, oh no, it's actually nominated for Best Picture and Best Director. Never could have called that. Whereas
when I was reading your write ups as you were turning them in at the festival, I remember reading that one. I'm like, this looks sick as hell. I thinking no one I know is ever going to watch this aside from me. Yeah.
Whereas, like with Anora, I remember sitting in the chair and sitting next to a fellow film critic who loved the movie much more than I did, and kind of sighing immediately after Anora ends and going, "That's gonna win the fucking Palme d'Or." Like, because it is the most cliche, or for me, was the most cliche imaginable Palme d'Or winner. I didn't think it was going to win Best Picture. I knew it was going to be nominated. At that point, I'm not going to say, "Oh, I saw the future," and I was like, "There's going to be Oscar statues handed out for this." But it did feel like this is the kind of movie that will go far, whereas The Substance was like, this is a gem that I have discovered, and nobody's going to believe that I saw this. In a year, nobody will like remember this, which is
you were famously a staunch advocate that Megalopolis was going to win coming out of that first screening. I remember you saying to me, tears in your eyes. You came up to me in the street, tears in your eyes. You said, "Sir, Megalopolis,
big guy, strong guy.
he will. Francis Ford Coppola will win 4 Oscars that night." It turned out someone did win 4 Oscars. You just had the wrong person.
I mean, he did get nominated for the Razzies. I do love the idea that I flew back.
His thing for the Razzie was so good, though.
Yeah,
I don't think he wrote it, but the statement was really nice.
I do love the idea, though, that I flew back in the middle of the film festival to tell you in your house, and then presumably got in a plane and flew back to watch Emilia Perez.
You still got to watch the movies. You got to go see Flo. You got to tell me about that cat.
Yeah, Flo is so good. I wish Flo won a couple more.
Flo was incredible. Yeah.
Balls in your court, Estonia.
Yeah, that was, and also it led to that good goof, the good recurring goof of Balls in Your Court, Estonia. Yeah, Flo to me should have been one of the 10 Best Picture nominees. I thought it was that good. Yeah, Jesse. Any other? Sorry, we sort of derailed there with The Substance, but any other high level Oscar thoughts?
Oh, let's see. I agree. Zoe Saldana definitely like deserved some recognition there. Say what you want about Emilia Perez. Whether it is external drama or just the movie as it is. I thought she did an absolutely amazing job in that. I thought Conan was phenomenal. I love the Dune Worm. I love that. He's a kind of comedian that he makes fun of himself, and I love that. I love him talking about how people refer to him as a complete unknown and Nosferatu.
Yeah, that was good.
As just
A
as
real
much,
pain, yeah.
Yeah, real pain.
just as much as I love Conan on stage, taking a shot at Kendrick and Drake's feud.
That was a really good goof. Yeah, it was a really good.
It's absolutely wonderful.
really
And I don't know if it all happened to you, but I was at like a watch party, and the Hulu stream ended at like 10:32.
So yeah, I heard that from a lot of people that apparently Hulu, which owned by Disney, slash ABC, was streaming it, and the stream just ended like before the last award was given out. Whereas,
the last two.
Wow, so you missed actress and
Best picture.
It was right after. It was right after Sean Baker had done The Importance of Not Watching Movies on Streaming, which was just perfect timing from Hulu to be.
That is really good timing.
Yeah. It just ended. We're all like, oh, maybe it's just our interconnection, and we're like reloading, and like, no, it's ended. Then we have people, it's like Y2K. People like looking at it's like, oh god, what happened? And so I'm just like on Twitter, like refreshing, like, are they going to tell us what? And so the event ended at like another like 15-20 minutes. So it was a long time in between everything that it went down. I'm like, oh my god, this happened for the Oscars? Did they just not only have that a lot of time? Like that was it?
But it's Hulu. I watched it on ABC, like on over the air, and it's like that is the way where I would understand more if ABC cut it out because they were like, well, we have to get into the episode of American Idol or whatever, or The Voice. Whereas it's like fucking streaming. It's the internet. You don't have to. You can go as long as you want. We can't go as long as we want on this podcast.
I do love, by the way, that coming up to the show, the Oscars, like we got it down to 3.5 hours, which is like, because in previous years they've said we got it down to 3 and have overshot it like by 20 minutes. I appreciate that this year they're like 3.5. We can do it in 3.5.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I have someone that worked in live television, so I'm well aware that things get off track basically right away from like first block you have, especially when you have. Like the documentary feature winners, they went exceptionally long, but there's no way they were going to be called off the stage because that would have been something else. And you have Adrian Brody who just tells the powers that be to turn off the music so it can go longer, which is absolutely hilarious. I love that you can just do that. Apparently,
I like Adrian Brody as an actor.
Go on.
I liked him in The Pianist. I like The Jacket, if anyone's ever seen that movie, where he's like time travels via a magic straitjacket with Keira Knightley. I love him in The Brothers Bloom. I think The Brothers Bloom might be my favorite Rian Johnson movie, but I like every Rian Johnson movie. And I thought he was really great in The Brutalist. I thought his speech fucking sucked. And I think if you're going to take that much time, don't just ramble from topic to topic. Like, have something to say for that much time. And then him being like, I've been here before, I'm going to keep it short. But he didn't keep it short. And then he's thinking like, listen, you are not who your partner is, but his partner, who he shouts out and shouts out the kids he's with, that was Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife who was with him forever. And like, I don't want to cast aspersions to someone I don't know, but like, well, I don't know. That left a very bad taste in my mouth. So I like Adrian Brody as an actor. I don't need to see him speaking words that he didn't write ever again. That someone else didn't write ever again.
You remember the SNL thing, right?
Yeah, Jamaican Man. Yeah, I remember that. That's fucking dreadful. It's like nightmarish.
Yes.
And he was banned more for just like ad-libbing, not even like the
like that was insane. That's not even like
that's
I don't understand like what was the joke here.
Yeah, but also like it's like in terms of like that it wasn't like the 70s. It was like the 2000s.
Yeah. He was I'm sorry, I thought he was great. I think he's amazing in The Brutalist. I thought he was really good in Succession the last few seasons.
And this was all after Conan did a whole song and dance of we're not going to waste your time.
But I mean, the joke being that he does a whole song and dance wasting your time. But like, again, to double down on the Brody thing, like I think he is a phenomenal actor. I don't mind. It's like the Jeremy Strong thing, where like it's kind of the silliness feels almost charming to a certain extent, where it's like he really does exist on a different plane of reality from human beings. And I kind of don't mind that as much as I'm like, he should not have been allowed on SNL, and he should also, maybe hire a publicist at some point. I'm like,
or just every 20 years I'll win an Oscar and everything's fine.
yeah, that Eric got the photo there. Yeah, there we go.
So
there
bad.
we go. Yeah,
It's the most
So
uncomfortable thing.
It's like it was stuck on
apparently
Skull
his
Island
idea.
for too long.
Yeah, apparently his
Genuinely
idea.
dreadful.
He brought that idea.
I hate it.
Dreadful.
I hate it.
Oh.
Waka waka.
Ah.
A couple super chats came in that will veer us in certain directions. Bookworm with a $5 dono at the beginning. Thank you so much, Bookworm. Talking just about the Oscars as a whole. Maybe the Oscars lost the cultural zeitgeist before it was cool, before the cool Hollywood trend to kind of lose the cultural zeitgeist. I just think there's too much culture now to truly capture what is the cultural zeitgeist. Oppenheimer was close to it last year, Barbie and Oppenheimer. I think that was as close as seemingly we can get, but like, the big movies of this year were Deadpool and Wolverine, like Inside Out 2, and then the rest of them you kind of, Dune and Wicked, I guess were the two sort of quote unquote blockbuster entries in here, but
which even those, like, I'm sure everyone's just waiting on Dune, Messiah, and Wicked 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you had the quotes from the anonymous Oscar ballots, like, I didn't even watch Dune Part 2, which is great. Like, I love the outrage click generating like anonymous Oscar ballots, where like I swear that those people are just like know what they're doing. They're just stirring. They're like,
yeah. I don't get why would you. It's fucking watching. It's watching movies. Well, why are you watching movies if you're not watching movies? Like,
but like. To that point about like the zeitgeist, I think the thing about the zeitgeist is that, and again, this is my pet bugbear with like Hollywood in general, is people talk about how you used to have movies that were popular that won Oscars, and that was when people used to watch the show, when movies like say Titanic used to win Oscars. And I think like Sean Fennessy has this statistic where like between like 1997 and 2004, every movie or all but one or two movies that won the Best Picture Oscar earned over $100 million, like at the domestic box office in the States. And like my big thing is that the problem is not that the Oscars don't nominate popular movies. They do, as you mentioned, like Dune Part 2, Oppenheimer, and Barbie. The issue is that like Hollywood no longer makes the kinds of popular movies that the Academy is willing to nominate, because why on earth would they nominate Deadpool and Wolverine? Why on earth would they nominate? Like, they nominated Top Gun and they nominated Avatar: The Way of Water because those are like exceptionally well-crafted blockbuster movies that everybody loved and everybody went to see. But Hollywood doesn't make those movies as standard anymore. Those are kind of rare. They're unicorns. Like, the problem in terms of like the zeitgeist and the Oscars leaving the zeitgeist behind is that like the zeitgeist, or Hollywood's catering to the zeitgeist, changed in such a way that like the movies that used to be capable of drawing audiences and winning awards no longer exist, where it seems like there are now just two extreme poles completely disconnected from one another, where it is like Amelia Perez or it is like Anora, and then on the other hand it's like Deadpool and Wolverine and Inside Out,
which is a little surprising because when Top Gun Maverick came out, the whole thing was like, oh, this is like a classic kind of movie. Like, are we going to start seeing more of these? It's different. It's what people clearly want because everyone's going to watch it. And then like nothing.
Yeah. Like, and again, like you look at Oppenheimer and like the success of Oppenheimer, or even the success of Barbie. Like the success of Barbie, where it's like, that is the easiest thing in the world to do. You have an intellectual property, you hire a filmmaker with a strong viewpoint, and you give them a reasonable budget and complete creative freedom and let them do what they want with it. Like, you could apply the Barbie template to the MCU tomorrow. Sorry to pick on the MCU. You could apply the Barbie template to the Fast and Furious movies tomorrow, to the Jurassic World movies tomorrow. You could apply it to any franchise, easy, out of the box. And I'm not saying all of them would be nominated for Best Picture, but I'm saying the standard of the movies would improve dramatically. They would continue to make large amounts of money, and some of them would even be nominated for and probably eventually win the Best Picture Oscar. But that's not where we are. Like, it is so insane that like Hollywood looked at the success of Oppenheimer and Barbie and was like, no, I feel like what people are really taking away from this is they like it when we release two different movies on the same weekend. So how about Saw Patrol? Doesn't that work for everybody?
Like, oh no one gives a shit about this. Oh,
well,
sorry.
Glicked, wasn't that the thing like last year? It's like, what if we released?
DL.
Yeah.
I bet some
Gladiator, Gladiator 2.
Gladiator
You've already forgotten Gladiator 2.
I
It's
swear to
already
God,
been
Connie
lost.
Nielsen got on stage for. I like how they presented those handful of awards where the five the actors from the movie were representing. That was like best costuming. And I'm staring, and I'm like, "What is that fourth movie?" It was literally Connie Nielsen, and behind her was like a woman wearing a robe, and I'm like, "What was that movie?" I'm like, "Did I just not see it?" Because I thought I saw everything. I'm like,
honestly, if we're talking about snubs, Denzel Washington
For
better
supporting.
too. Yeah, he should have been a supporting actor, if you ask me.
"What about the little chimp, the little shoulder chimp?" I like that one.
Best supporting chimp category, was that not in this year?
We could. We
I mean,
probably
they're
have
adding it
five
with the
chimps.
stunt category. I mean, this is the thing where it's
That's
like
true.
it takes so long to add categories, and the Oscars like are so committed to adding the wrong categories. Where like a stunt category would be the easiest thing in the world to do, but they're like, what about popular film? What about no takers on popular film? What if we try it again?
And the stunt category is giving you probably popular movies, but presenting that in an artistic way and not in a bullshit popular movie way.
And like, imagine if you like could pitch that with, well, we're going to do a Mission Impossible stunt in the middle of like the Kodiak Theater. Like Tom Cruise is going to perform a stunt from Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning in the theater. He may die during the Oscar.
Truly dies at the 100th Oscar while performing a live stunt in 3 years. That's the way he goes.
Yeah.
He zip lines and grabs his Oscar.
Yeah.
Tell me that wouldn't boost ratings. Tell me that wouldn't draw the crowds in.
I mean, if Conan proved anything, song and dance might be the way to go.
Yeah.
Well, for some people, not everyone.
There was a minor bump last year, if I remember correctly, from like the Barbie and Oppenheimer. So it's when you nominate popular movies that people have seen, people do too, and that just makes sense because it's like you want people to feel invested. If like the Super Bowl involved teams that nobody had heard of, nobody would watch the Super Bowl. So you get
they always want their big markets. Yeah,
that's it exactly, and it's like so you need to like make movies that people see, and you need to nominate them, and they need to have a chance of winning. That is how you attract people back, I would argue, over a long
Darren,
term.
have you heard about the film Avatar: Fire and Ash coming this December? It's coming.
Here's the question. You still have not seen The Way of Water, Marty, I'm guessing.
No, I'm planning to, because I gotta see water before I see Ash.
That's fair. You won't be able to follow the plot otherwise.
Also, I have to see the first one again because I haven't seen it in like 15 years.
I'm guilty of that as well.
You can pick up
Marty,
pretty
you're in the
easy.
same boat.
Yeah. Like, do we think the Academy's going to withhold that Oscar from him until like Avatar 6 or whatever the last one he directs is? Like, is there like a version of like the Return of the King sweep waiting in Cameron's future for this?
He deserves something. He's Big Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, he got everything for Titanic. It's not like I feel bad for him. And he gets all the money. That's what the money's for.
That's what the money's for.
So he's fine.
Poor James Cameron.
Yeah.
Never got his flowers.
It is weird because we're also a little over 2 months into the year, and it doesn't even feel like anything so far has even remote. Because this time last year there was Dune. Dune was March, right? Challengers was March. Not like Challengers won, but
she got nominated for something.
Agreed.
The soundtrack even, but like Civil War, like I remember the thing about last year was so incredibly like front loaded in terms of, and presumably it was because of the strikes, because you had a bunch of stuff that had moved out of like the awards corridor in 2023, like Dune and Challengers, because they couldn't have the stars promote them, and that would make it difficult to sell. So they all moved into early 2023, and what you ended up with was like early 2024. What you ended up with was like the late 2024 had nothing in it because the strikes had happened just last year. And it's like this year we have the Vineland movie coming later in the year from like PTA,
which I think is going to be like I'm gonna love it, and it's going to be a massive bomb. Like I'm so excited.
I mean, the joke is that he could kill Warner Brothers. Like that the irony being that like not David Zaslav, but like PTA's like Vineland movie would be what finally kills Warner Brothers.
Yeah, what are the other early like?
But you got like next, like 2026, you got like Spielberg, Peele, and Nolan. Like Hollywood at this stage is like we're banking big on 2026.
Yeah.
But like I'm trying to think, like what do we have coming out like later this year that people are excited about?
Stake the Garden mentions, but that seems like that's not going to be Parasite when it comes to.
I saw that this morning actually. Yeah, like it's more Okja than Parasite. I liked it. But it is very.
I'm excited for it, yeah. But
and like it's a good time at the pictures. Pattinson's great. Bong Joon-ho, surprisingly good director. Darren says controversially, but like it It's not Parasite. It's not going. I don't imagine. I will be pleasantly surprised. I mean, I sat in the theater. I watched The Substance, and I was like, "This will never cross over," and it did cross over. So I'm the wrong person to say I don't see Mickey 17 crossing over, but I don't see Mickey 17 crossing over.
I mean, to be fair, how many people who watch Parasite also watch like Okja or The Host, right?
Yeah. And I'm kind of glad that he got to do this because, like, he's going back to South Korea for his next one. He has a project that's already lined up for him. Like, this really feels like him because, again, it's another Warner Brothers production that I am very glad exists, like the Vineland movie. But I'm also like, if I'm at Warner Brothers and I'm saying no to Coyote versus Acme, like, what part of my reptile brain is saying, but the science fiction movie where Robert Pattinson dies a bunch of times with a funny accent, that's where we're putting our money. It is interesting that that's how that works out.
I mean, conceptually, it sounds fun, right? Bong Joon-ho, Robert Pattinson, like, I mean, that
I liked it. I liked it, to be clear, but from a business sense, I'm like, if you don't believe you can sell John Cena and Wile E. Coyote, like, what part of your marketing department is like, no, PTA Vineland, sort of Bong Joon-ho's like giant Parasite movie, giant Parasite fucking what's his face, Robert Pattinson movie. That's going to be where the money is this year. It's fascinating because like Warner Brothers do seem like they're taking big swings, but it also seems like they're big swings that the company kind of regrets taking while it's taking them.
Which, to be fair, maybe they're right about John Cena. He's a bad guy now.
He's a bad guy now.
He had a heel. I believe he turned.
Heel turn at Elimination Chamber.
The kids would be heartbroken if they had to watch it now.
It's the Break a Wish Foundation.
It's the Break a Wish Foundation. I like that.
Can I ask you questions? People who know like wrestling stuff, right?
Yes.
It seems odd to me, just as an outside observer, that like, historically, I assumed the path was going from wrestler to professional actor. And once you made that transition, you were like formally in the professional actor stage. Is it unusual that like The Rock is going back and Cena's going back? Or is that just how the industry always worked?
Well, The Rock's come back as like a board member of the parent company, the TKO parent company of the WWE and UFC. So like he has like an actual ownership stake in it. So I think part of the reason, and also like The Rock is the highest paid actor of last year, but he's also like his movie career is
not had a hit.
The Rock is kind of bad. The Rock pretty much only returns for two reasons. It's either one, it's some sort of movie promotion, or and this can kind of apply to John Cena as well, or two, because their movies or their public image has been doing great right now. So let's go back to where people absolutely love us if we return. Really, the like wrestler into like an actor thing, it kind of started with The Rock. Like, there's like Hulk Hogan, and I guess to an extent like a couple others like Roddy Piper or like Randy Savage in Spider-Man. But it wasn't quite even like The Rock. Like, Scorpion King was kind of like the big one, but he didn't really get, like, I would argue, like, big till he got jacked again. Became like the big like mega star.
Listen, you got a couple Southland Tales defenders on the pod, so
Oh, I've seen that movie multiple times. I'm well aware.
Rumblings, Richard Kelly making a new movie.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. That.
Very excited. As somebody who doesn't love Richard Kelly, who doesn't think Richard Kelly's misunderstood on tour, but is like just glad to see movies that weird. I'm like, I'm on board with that. I love it so much.
At least it makes you think. Yeah.
What about the box?
Would Hulk Hogan have come back in the way that like The Rock and John Cena are? I kind of imagine that like you just age out and then you're like, because obviously it's an incredibly physically demanding art form.
Hulk Hogan came out, I believe, on the first Netflix episode of the Wrestling King on Netflix. He came out and
thank you, Eric, for that image.
He was booed so heavily.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're like, we're not going to bring him out anymore. And I think he's booed because the audience, the wrestling audience, is like, this guy's too racist for us.
He was supposed to be on Saturday Night's Main Event, but they took him out and replaced him with Jesse Ventura, also another wrestler turned actor turned politician.
And he's back again. Okay, Ventura's like again. Governor Ventura. American politics are so fascinating. No Irish governor or like county councilor that I'm aware of has ever entered or re-entered the wrestling ring.
Yeah, I mean, many people that have like wrestlers have turned into actors, don't necessarily make it big, right? I mean, unless you count like Adam Copeland on Money Plane big. But I don't know if I go that far, but it is Money Plane.
What? There's a whole plane made of money? I don't even know what that
Is
movie
Money
is.
Plane the one with Kelsey Grammer, right? That's the one with Kelsey Grammer.
Yes.
Where it's
Who's my
it's a
favorite
casino.
actor turned wrestler?
Turned wrestler. Not wrestler turned actor, to be clear. He was like, no, now that I've established myself as Fraser Crane, I feel like it's time for me to diversify.
Also,
I'm David Arquetting. I'm David Arquetting.
Who hasn't come back is Batista, because he's a good actor.
Yeah, and also like Batista's talked about how his body's messed up. Like, I think Batista is, for my money, and this is not a controversial opinion, the best wrestler turned actor. And like a large part of that is down to the fact that he is quite open about why he's doing what he's doing and why he is and how he feels about this stuff and the acting and the profession of it. Where like, he's talked about like his body being messed up, where he doesn't want to do shirtless scenes anymore. Where like he's talked about like in Guardians 3, Drax isn't shirtless that much because I'm like 50 years old now and I can't do that.
Yeah, and the professional wrestling industry is so demanding on like the physical appearance. So when you see people like Batista who left and he slimmed down, John Cena left, he slimmed down and stopped tanning. The Rock slimmed down for quite a while. It's kind of weird watching that period between that and like Fast and Furious, where he just got like really skinny. I don't know if I like it.
There was the one Fast and Furious movie where he flexes. He has a cast on.
Yeah,
he flexes so hard that he
out of the cast. I think,
God, those movies are dumb. Those movies are dumb.
But some of them are good. Not all.
Some of them are really good. And I still don't think they're making a new one.
That's so good. Even like
I do want them to make Fast X Part 2. I feel like that's the perfect title for like Fast 11. sorry.
It's got to be Part 2. And I have been waiting too long for it to come out.
Just roll right past it. That's no. They don't need. They don't need to.
The next movie begins with like Vin Diesel sipping a Corona, going, "Man, it's really great how I got out of that crisis, wasn't it?"
We untangled that knot quickly. A couple more super chats. Sir Arthur, thank you so much for the dono. Let's fucking go. I'm still here. One for best international movie. Got 2 other great nominations too. We are so happy. Go Brazil. See, the Brazilian contingency showed up. France, where you at?
Actress and Best Picture. Like that's the thing about it, is that like whatever you could say about the Academy Awards, and there are valid criticisms to be leveled at a body that gave like Emilia Perez 13 nominations, but like the fact that like the nominees included again Nickel Boys, which is incredibly experimental in terms of its visual storytelling. Like it's the kind of movie the Oscars would have. I know people are like it should have been nominated for directing, it should have been nominated for cinematography, and it wasn't, and that's fair. I can understand those criticisms, but like 10 years ago, that movie would have been completely frozen out, and people would have been writing columns in 10 years saying that it was the most important American movie that got no nominations. We mentioned already like The Substance and like I'm Still Here. Like I do think the Academy is becoming a more interesting and better body in terms of the films that it nominates. I think as fun as it is to grouse about the awards, I think that's a good thing, and I like it a lot, as much as I'm also like, but Oppenheimer and should win all the years. They should have given Best Picture this year to Oppenheimer again.
I will say I was happy how like spread out all the awards for like some of my peers were expecting like maybe certain clean sweeps, whether it was from like Wicked or Conclave.
Yeah, I agree. I like that most movies walked away with something, unless like except for like A Complete Unknown, I think, which didn't walk away anything.
Which left as A Complete Unknown. I mean, it happens every once in a while where like I think Killers of the Flower Moon also donutted, and I think The Irishman donutted as well, like, or bageled, or whatever the term is that like pundits like to use. But like generally speaking, we are past like the point of, as you say, the Titanic sweep, the Return of the King sweep, where like Anora winning 5 Oscars and 4 of them going to Sean Baker, that is what counts as a sweep these days. Like the fact that like winning 5 Oscars instead of 13 is now what counts as kind of a sweep. That is a very impressive performance for a single film. But I also, broadly speaking, I do like the share the love stuff. Like I like again, it gets to the what is the point of the Oscars and why is it nice to celebrate film, and it's good to watch an award ceremony from people who seem to actually like movies. I like the idea that like the Oscar voters are like, yeah, a lot of good movies this year, and we're going to spread the love around,
Yeah, and I appreciate it, because then you have people that really deserve certain things, like Zoe Saldana, like winning, winning an award, or Flo winning an award, or whatever movie. About the intentionality of just saying, hey, let's get this one movie and win everything. Sure, it looks cool, but is it actually deserving of all that? I don't know. Will it ever return? Is it a cultural thing? I guess time will tell if like one of those movies comes out. But I personally I appreciate seeing the more like widespread intentionality of the individuals.
Yeah, it's also a weird
That
thing.
said, Oppenheimer also deserved all 7 of its awards.
You say that about every Nolan.
It's
That's fair. Give a retroactive Oscar to Tenet.
Listen, with Cosmo though, I'm all in on Odyssey. I was a little flaky.
I meant to say like you were holding back on that, like it was.
I was like, you know what? It doesn't have enough weird dudes. There's only one Robert Pattinson. There's not 17 of him, and so there wasn't enough weird little dudes. But Cosmo's there. I like how I call him little. I think he's big.
Yeah, no, he's pretty big, but also like Mia Goth is what. Like Mia Goth is weird.
She's the weirdest little dude. Yeah, she's an absolute freak. I love it.
Have you heard her talk in interviews? That's not a put on voice.
Yeah.
You assume it has to be like nobody talks like Pippi Longstockings except Mia Goth.
I want her, and then I want John Leguizamo on set, who's also in that movie. I don't know what he's doing in that movie. I want him to talk in his big fat clown voice from Spawn, whoever that man is.
Leguizamo's the guy who like fixes the ships. He fixes Odysseus's ships, and there comes a point where like Alfie Allen shows up. It's like, you know whose ship you just stole? Odysseus's.
I'm getting chills.
He was just trying to get home to his wife, and you stole his fucking ship.
I'm getting chills thinking about this movie. Hachi Machi Violator. That's the name of the clown. What a mean name for a clown. Violator. Christ.
I mean, it was the 90s. Like it's again, you gotta put this all.
John Leguizamo, so good in that.
Yeah. He's real good. He's really good.
Value of good, I think.
He's real good. He was my Luigi.
Great John Leguizamo, great Violator.
My Luigi.
I think like as good as anybody could have been in the role of Violator, John Leguizamo was. I would still hesitate to say that like John Leguizamo was good in that movie.
Stake of the Garden with the €2 dono. Thank you so much. Can we talk about this year's Oscar goodie bags, please?
Ooh,
this is a thing that is fascinating and disgusting. I'm putting a link to this. So these goodie bags, which have $200,000 worth of things in them, they only go to the nominees for Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, and the host. So 16 people who I'm assuming are already rich, although Brady Corbet sounds like he's like needs money. So maybe they could all give Brady and Sean Baker these bags. But they include things such as, so they're valued at $220,000, and they have pre-rolled cannabis pre-rolls, luxury Maldives resort stays, gift cards for liposuction, which giving that to the star of The Substance is pretty funny. It's pretty funny. That's really not understanding the assignment. And like just like multi-$1,000 stays at resorts. Why are we giving these to the rich people?
I mean,
because they deserve it.
They worked hard.
It's hard work to be rich, isn't it?
That's what the money's for.
I mean, the thing that, again, this is interesting because, like, even as a film critic, you kind of pick up on things where, like, Netflix apparently have pulled back on their spending around award season, which is one of the ironies of, like, Emilia Perez performing the way that it did, where it was, like, the Netflix movie where Netflix weren't trying. Where, like, I kind of thought, I honestly, part of me thought up until the whole thing blew up with Gascon, it would have been pretty funny for Netflix to win with Emilia Perez, the movie that nobody likes, and they bought almost as a second thought, and I put no effort into promoting whatsoever. That manages to be the one that sweeps after spending $200 million on The Power of the Dog, $200 million on The Irishman, these great works of art that everybody loved. But, like, Netflix, very famously, when they came into Hollywood, they were like, they would do that for every voter in every body, where the story was like you would get a phone call from a Netflix rep for Roma, where it would be like, how do you want your signed Alfonso Cuarón Roma commemorative poster framed and mounted? And we can send somebody over to your house to install a hook to hang it on as well. Like, that was the level of like spending and bribery going on in terms of like promoting these movies. So yeah, no, this is the way the industry unfortunately has always been. I still have a can of Jared Leto's kombucha that they did to promote Glass Onion. Thank you, Eric. That's a very appropriate gift.
Don't open it.
They actually made a can of Jared Leto's kombucha for Glass Onion. That's really good. We're gonna have you drink that on the 100th episode, so just wait a couple of years.
Keep it. I'm sure it gets better with age.
That's kombucha, right? It's like it's got some living shit inside of it, right? I actually don't know what kombucha is. It's like spicy juice, right? Something's supposed to be good for you. Nidaram with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Nidaram. I've been loving the podcast. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Nidaram. Which movie had your opinion changed the most upon a second viewing?
Two stick out to me.
Ooh, yeah, let's hear it.
Like two films that when I first watched, I did not like them, but upon further rewatching, I guess some films I kind of make myself like just from like watching them so often. But probably gonna stick out to me is one the Big Lebowski. Like I didn't get it at first. I thought like this is dumb. And also Drive.
Ooh, so you changed positively on Drive, right?
Yes. Both films I just did not like. And I eventually turned around as, I kind of like some films, like you kind of miss like certain things like watching and like, kind of what they're going for. Maybe it's like something like at the end, or maybe through when you watch again, you kind of get the whole experience with some like context of itself. And just like the style, especially also watching like Refn's other films. It's like, this was the good one.
This is the accessible one. Yes.
Yeah.
Darren, do you have any off the top of your dome?
I mean, there are a couple where like my patience for movies like occasionally like gets worn down over the course of like a rewatch. The one I think of in particular is the X-Men Apocalypse, the Bryan Singer movie, where I didn't think it was great the first time I watched it, but I was very forgiving of it because I was like, look, Bryan Singer invented the modern superhero movie, therefore Bryan Singer gets to make his big stupid like Avengers-esque fight in an urban area movie that makes no sense whatsoever. And I was like, fine, we'll give that like 2 stars or whatever. And then I watch it again after obviously all of the Singer stuff has come out, and I'm like, you know what, my patience and tolerance for this sort of indulgence no longer exists. This is a bad movie, and it's a worse movie than I thought it was. It's an abominable movie. So I will say that is something where my opinion of a movie changed, and I will say that is probably due to outside factors, in that like I'm more willing to cut a director slack before I know they are a monster. In terms of movies that kind of where my opinion changed positively, a couple of them jump out. So like Alien Covenant, for example, would be one where the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is that? What is going on with that movie? And then as I kind of dig into it and I discover its development history, I discover what it is, I discover what like is happening in Ridley Scott's life around that time. I'm like, actually, this is a pretty valid artistic expression of a bunch of stuff that I can understand and relate to. And it's a bunch of stuff that I can feel in the movie that I didn't know enough to put the name to, but I now can. So I've kind of grown to warm it to it. And I think we were talking before we went on air, The Counselor as well is another one where it's like, the first time I watched it, like, what the hell is that? And then I'm like, actually, if I take a step back and I think about it in the context of a man whose brother took his own life very publicly, dealing with cancer in a town where he made people hundreds of millions of dollars, but they wouldn't hire him anymore, I would absolutely make a movie like The Counselor that is so dark and cynical and resentful of human nature. So I kind of on rewatch was like, actually, I can kind of feel the vibe of that. And I will also say there are generally just movies that kind of creep up in my estimation the more I watch them. So like Last Jedi is a big one, where like the famous story I tell about The Last Jedi is the press screening of that before everything happened with The Last Jedi. I come out and I'm talking to a fellow film critic. I'm like, that was pretty good. It's a very well-made movie, very well performed, a lot of affection for Star Wars, like just good craft on display. But I really wish it had more teeth. Like Star Wars fans are mature adults who can like take criticism and take deconstruction and deal with complicated ideas about their relationship to the franchise and the franchise's place in popular culture. And I feel like this movie wore kids' gloves and was almost afraid to deal with those fans in a way that like treated them as responsible adults with mature opinions who could handle like an actual argument. And I will say, I was wrong. The movie was not. That was my mistake, not the movies. And so in that case, my opinion of the movie has gone up significantly.
I kind of feel with like some movies, like I'll watch like, like The Last Jedi or a lot of the Jurassic World films. And at the time, like, I really like some of those. I don't want to watch them again because I'm sure my opinion will change.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to just leave something kind of crystallized in the moment you saw it and not touch it for fear of what will happen as soon as it hits oxygen this much later. I talked about for my assuming I didn't like Gladiator and then rewatching Gladiator a few months ago. I'm like, oh, Gladiator's sick. So yeah, Gladiator I was just wrong on. And now I'm worried about this whole Wallace and Gromit thing, which has gotten out of control. I'm worried that I'm going to watch Wallace and Gromit and like it. And I kind of don't want to like it. I like enough things. I need less things to like.
I like, by the way, that you're not like Gladiator 2. Like, you're never like, there's no chance that like 20 years from now, when they're making Gladiator 3, you'll be like, you know what? We weren't fair to Gladiator 2.
I watched Gladiator 2 a second time, and I'm like, ooh, I like it less now. Maybe I should I should stop watching this movie. Let's just leave it as it is. That's why when the costume thing showed up, I was like, what is that movie? I've already memory holed it. But yeah, there's also movies depend on the circumstances you see them. And I remember going to see the movie Darren Aronofsky's Mother, and I was like hungover, and it was a nightmare experience. And I was like, I think I hate this, and I want to throw up. And then I saw it not hungover, and I was like, I think I love this, and I also still want to throw up. And so that was one of those where the experience. And then Darren, like you said, when you learn the what went into the production of a movie, the circumstances around the movie, that can absolutely change things. If you learn that, the reason these decisions were made were for very personal reasons that weren't really publicized, that can give you a new take on something. So yeah, great question. Fungus Finder with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Fungus Finder. Happy Marty Gras. Oh yeah, today's Mardi Gras. Look at that, Fat Old Tuesday. Any good Fat Tuesday movies? What? No, are there? There's got to be movies that take place. Wasn't there a Bond movie that has a Mardi Gras parade?
Live and Let Die?
Yeah.
Live and Let Die takes place in the Caribbean, yeah.
What?
Or it's just a parade.
And Spectre starts on the Day of the Dead. Spectre starts on the Day of the Dead. Spectre does start on the Day of the Dead.
Oh.
There must be some sort of Mardi Gras. It does feel like the kind of thing that Bond would be like, I got to get in on that, to be fair. And let's be clear here. Unlike Disney, when Bond makes a movie during Day of the Dead, they don't try to copyright it. The fair play to Barbara Broccoli. By the way, fun fact, broccoli the vegetable, named for the broccoli family.
I found that out last year. The family's so powerful that they created a hybrid vegetable, and we're like, it's called broccoli. Eat it, you fools. Which I think is amazing. God. Also, we didn't talk about that was SpawnCon, right? Like sponsored con that was the Bond thing, right? That was just Amazon paid for that, right? Like, I'm not even being cynical. The thing during the Oscars, that was like
same thing with the stunt show last year, which was very obviously the Fall Guy.
Yeah,
and same thing with the they didn't have to pay for it, but the Gal Gadot and Rachel Ziegler like Snow White stuff is very obviously ABC, Disney, Hulu being like, we will put your show on the air, but you're gonna put in promotion for our upcoming movie.
Yeah. It was it was also weird because like it starts. I'm like, is that Margaret Qualley? I'm like, is she dancing? Why is she here? She wasn't in a Bond movie. Oh, she's a good dancer. And then all these singers would come up.
If she collected Demi Moore's Oscar, it would have been a great bit. If Demi Moore, because Demi Moore wasn't there. She was watching from home. So I was kind of like wondering.
She sat in the front.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. What was
it felt very bad every time when they showed her after Mickey Madison. That'd have been really funny though if Margaret Qualley got it for.
The opening with Conan just coming out of
the body. Yeah, trying to get his keys or whatever, his shoe. Good goofs. Charno with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Charno. I absolutely loved Anora, but what was great were the 4 Oscars for Sean Baker, which I think they said tied a record for the most Oscars in a single night by a person.
I think it technically surpasses it because the international Oscar goes to the country, not the director. So like Bong Joon-ho is the person that they were thinking. Oh no, it ties for Walt Disney, but for the same film, it is a record.
Gotcha.
Because Disney won, I think, for 3 or 4 different movies. He won 4 Oscars. But for Bong Joon-ho, he technically collected 4 Oscars on stage, but the 4th of those, the international feature, went to Korea or South Korea rather than going.
What do you mean it goes to Korea? Who gets the statue?
They can decide. Like the country gets to decide. So they can either put it in a museum or like lock it in a vault, or sometimes give it to the director if they're feeling generous. But basically, the country is the person or the entity that holds the Oscar.
That's insane.
So there are definitely some Oscars in the Disney vault.
Yeah, absolutely. Just hanging out there. That is insane. But yeah, good for Sean Baker. I'm curious to see what he does next. It feels like he could very easily get 10 times the budget of this movie to do something next. And I'm curious if he will take that because he has very much been a staunch independent guy. But when money rolls around, I don't know if you stick
Daniels doing movies at Universal now. I'd like to give it a sense of like why are you going? And obviously Chloe Zhao just jumped on the Eternals,
which was the right choice. We all agreed it was the right choice.
Unanimously across the board.
They also didn't they do some of the
Skeleton Crew? Yeah. People like John
what I'd forgotten about already? Skeleton Crew. It wasn't bad. I was like, I don't need to remember any of this. I don't need that. I don't need to remember any of this. What's going on? What if we had good Star Wars? You know what? Coming back.
We
good
did.
Star Wars.
Andor.
It's coming back in like a month.
I rewatched the first season of Andor, which again is one of those things where you mentioned like things you're afraid to revisit because you might discover they're not as good as you thought they were. And it was like I had not watched Andor since it had like been on television or been on streaming. That show is as good as I remember it being. It's just fantastic. It's incredible. Like it is up there with like Better Call Saul. It is up there with like proper. It doesn't need the qualification of like good franchise television. Oh, yeah. It is just good television. It's just like
It's
I'm currently watching through Better Call Saul.
It's incredible. Love Better Call Saul.
What a show! What a show! I'm finishing up my rewatch of I'm on season 3 of Daredevil, which I don't know why I'm doing it.
It's about
I know why.
You're over the worst of it. Like you are.
I'm
like,
over the worst. Yeah.
I'm over Remember when there were ninjas for 2 seasons and an 8-episode crossover arc?
We do not need 13 episodes of these seasons.
We don't need to defend that.
We don't need 13 episodes.
Remember when they brought in Sigourney Weaver and then we're like, but she's not going to be the bad guy. She's the decoy villain. It's like because that works so well with Mahershala Ali, which was a contractual thing. It was necessary in Luke Cage. If you were getting Mahershala Ali, you were only getting him for those like 6 or 7 episodes.
Cottonmouth.
That's
Cottonmouth. Really good.
He was great. Like he again set an unrealistic standard for that show to live up to. The biggest problem with that show, and I say that understanding that like it was necessary for its production, is that you kill off Mahershala Ali and you've got nowhere to go from there. But damn,
they had a couple good villain, and then what's his name? Doctor Who, David Tennant, and as the Purple Man.
Again,
Jessica Jones.
The first season of Jessica Jones and the first season of Daredevil are like legitimately great television. Like I think they're phenomenal. And the thing about like the first season of Daredevil, again, Darren on his Chris Nolan kick, it's just Batman Begins stretched over 13 episodes, but Batman Begins is so good you can stretch it over 13 episodes. Like it's a good movie. I will say I also have a soft spot for the second season of Luke Cage as well. But yeah, the rest of the Netflix shows not great in general.
You just wait for that Iron Fist train to come back around, and people are like,
it's already around. Like when the Deadline did their Marvel are considering bringing back the Defenders, which by the way coincided with the box office decline of like Brave New World in its second weekend as a story, in case you're wondering who is setting the narrative there. Like when that happened, I tweeted out, great, the Iron Fist nostalgia is finally here. Somewhat ironically, only for my mentions to be filled with, you shut your dirty mouth, Mooney. It's like you take his name out of your mouth. Yeah.
Isn't that kind of funny how they're like tying it back around again, even though that was like the original idea? You look back at like Daredevil in season 1, it's like, oh, Thor was over here in this area, Iron Man. They drop all these references, and then it's just like, it's just not like the whole like Netflix and Disney and like all that stuff going down. So it's nice to see them still get work to do, like bring it back in some capacity.
This
they all seem like very nice people.
Yeah, and it's good that people are going to get paid. I would like if the like behind the scenes talent got paid. I would love if they brought back in Stephen Eston Knight, for example, to write a season of Daredevil. Like he would be the person I would hire to do Born Again. Or I would love if they brought back Cheo Hidari Coker to work on like Luke Cage. I know the second half of the first season is not great, but I think the second season is pretty good, and I think the ending of that show is fantastic. But like the thing that is fascinating to me is that like we are very clearly on the Disney are kind of like out of ideas for the MCU until we can reboot the X-Men, and it's very much like we need an infusion of material from outside, where it's like anything that we didn't produce that people could be nostalgic for, whether it is the Fox X-Men movies. Remember how people used to complain about how awful the Fox X-Men movies were, and then last year Deadpool and Wolverine goes on to be the second highest grossing movie of the year and the cornerstone of the MCU going forward. Now it's like the Netflix Defenders shows, where when those shows were on, a lot of people who were big fans of Marvel were like, these shows are bastardizations and they're disgraceful and they're embarrassed to be superhero shows and they're the worst thing on television. But now it's like, can we cycle around the nostalgia for that again? Can we like cash in on that? It's fascinating.
I'm rewatching Daredevil, and I'm like, even at its lowest, at least they look like they're in like a real human space. Every shot, I'm like, oh, this is like someone thought about how this is going to look, and it wasn't just like, well, let's just compress everything so that it's going to look fine on your TV and fine on your phone and fine in the theaters. And
okay, I cannot say much about Born Again. I can only talk about what has been released publicly. What I will say is that like one of the big tensions of that first season is the question of like, how do you make a Marvel, like a Netflix style show in a Disney production environment? And Marvel, Disney have already released this footage, so it's out there. I'm not spoiling anything. There is a long take fight sequence some point in the season. I'm not going to tell you when. I'm not going to tell you who. I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, yeah, they've shown the one.
Like,
it's like him and who's the guy who throws
him
things?
and
Bullseye.
Yeah. Him and Bullseye. Yes. So that scene is out there in the wild. It exists, and you can watch it. Right? Yes, with the bullseye on the head.
Colin Farrell.
I don't know.
Academy Award winner Colin Farrell.
Called Benjamin Poindexter, which is one of those we're not even trying kind of like real names for a supervillain. But like that sequence is obviously trying to do the classic hallway fight where every year the Netflix Marvel shows, in particular Daredevil, would do like a big hallway fight sequence. In the first season it's a hall, second season it's a stairwell, third season it's a prison riot. And those are all incredibly impressive sequences because they're shot in camera and they use practical techniques. So they do disguise cuts by going through blackness, for example. They do Texas switches where like the actor will be knocked off screen, whether over a prop or through a door, and the stuntman will come out. And you could see those things if you're paying attention to them, because that's not what those scenes aren't meant to be like, oh my God, Daredevil's so cool. It's meant to be like, actually look at the craft of this thing, look at the work the stunt people do doing this thing. And the problem is that when you try and do that in the Marvel production method, in the machine that Marvel Studios have, there is no way to get that low-key effect where you have to do a Texas switch or you have to go through a shadow in order to do a cut. So instead you just have copious amounts of CGI. So you end up with this kind of weird uncanny effect where it's trying to approximate something you remember from the original Netflix show, but using a mechanism, style of production that is alien and hostile to it. So as you said, you get a lot of these like weird CGI figures moving in ways that people can't, or, you know, shots that are very obviously stitched together using CGI interstitials. It is very interesting. I'm not going to offer an opinion on it, but it's very interesting in terms of like where Marvel's relationship to the Netflix shows is.
Funny, the first time I really noticed that in a fight scene was the Burly brawl in the second Matrix movie, and I remember hating it then. Like I was like a big Matrix fan, and I was like, this looks fucking stupid. Like this looks like a video game, and I love video games, but like transitioning from you are clearly Keanu Reeves to you are clearly not Keanu Reeves was so jarring to me, and it remains so jarring. And I don't think I have that keen of an eye, but it is so noticeable to me in fight scenes. It just takes me out of it.
And it's kind of weird because it doesn't need to do that, where it's like, I don't like, and people will say in the comic books, Daredevil is like Spider-Man. He should swing like Spider-Man. He has a little stick and that stick has a rope on it. And therefore he should swing across roofs like Spider-Man does. And that's okay. I respect that. That's their opinion. But also if you are doing something in a style that is designed to remind you of like practical in-camera effects, and you're not using practical in-camera effects, it's very disorienting because it's like, what do you think that I liked about those fight sequences? Like, do you think I liked that one of them was dressed like Daredevil, the comic book character? Or do you think I enjoyed the craft of the fight? And it's like, I assure you it was the craft of the fight is what I enjoyed. In most of those scenes, he's not actually wearing the red costume at all, you know?
Yeah.
Or in two of those three, yeah.
Yeah, like one of the long take fights sticks out to me is the original Old Boy.
That's what I think. That's what these are. That's the fight,
like,
right? That these are all
like from that, and you compare it to like the remake with Josh Brolin, and there's a difference between the two. Like one makes sense given like the context where it's at. The other, it's like they're just doing it just to do it, and I feel like it kind of feels like even like like did Daredevil season 2 and 3 also need to do that? Arguably,
cool, the prison fight in the third season was cool.
It was cool.
Yeah,
I think like technically they're great. Like that's the thing. I think the second season of Daredevil in particular is not good narratively, and it's not good narratively because like I love like Frank Miller's. I almost said I love Frank Miller. I don't love Frank Miller. Frank Miller is a very complicated person, but like Frank Miller's Daredevil is a great comic book run. It is full of great ideas and great images, but like The Hand are a really cool visual because they allow Frank Miller to go whenever a story point is dragging and then ninjas attacked. That's what The Hand are. They're just like, they're a really good shortcut for, and then ninjas attack. They can get to an action sequence really quickly. When you're doing 13 episodes, ninjas really aren't that cool a selling point as supervillains go. And like I remember that being a huge problem with the second season, where the first season has D'Onofrio as Fisk. And I think D'Onofrio as Fisk is one of the great comic book villains. You mentioned like David Tennant as Kilgrave, another great comic book TV show villain. But like the second season just has ninjas. And there is a point where not even 13 hours, but like 7 hours of ninja fights, you're like, that's enough ninjas for me. I'm out. Like
I never thought I would OD on ninjas. And it turns out the second season of the Daredevil proved me wrong. I just give me back Vincent D'Onofrio going Vanessa.
I mean, that's such
punching a guy's hair in a
that was cool as hell. I love that.
Like it's such perfect casting and such like a peak in season 1. Like it's hard to go from that to like season 2, where season 2 definitely felt like 2 parts, like Punisher, and then all the Elektra stuff, and it just
here's our backdoor mini pilot half season of Punisher.
Yeah.
Who is going to be in the Odyssey? Not one of the little freaks though. Barenthal, not a freak. He's cool. I like Barenthal. He's great.
Barenthal's great. Barenthal's like again one of those guys who feels like he could have been the Hackman if he had arrived at a different point in Hollywood history. Where like whenever he shows up, he's just great, reliable, and is generally doing sturdy work. Like he's very good in Ford versus Ferrari. He's very good in Wolf of Wall Street. Like, yo, Ma.
what? Wayne Jenkins and We Own the Night?
Yeah, like he's so
That's
good.
Not We Own the Night. What is that show? We Own the City.
We Own the City. Like he is so Bernthal is so good, and it feels like he would be perfect in the 1970s or even the 1980s or maybe the 1990s, but it's just now we have no idea what it's like Oscar Isaac. The same thing with Oscar Isaac, where like you watch a Most Violent Year and you're like, this guy should be the new Pacino, except we're not in the market for a new Pacino. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I firmly believe Oscar Isaac is currently in his quantum leap, where he's just leaping from role to role, trying to find the next leap home.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like, I mean, that's like the Colin Farrell problem, right? Is like he was miscast because he was too handsome.
Yeah.
Like he was like, oh, you're going to be the handsome leading man. It's like, no, you kind of got to be like you're at your best when you're kind of a miserable piece of shit. And
what if we bury you under makeup?
So yeah. What if please don't make me do this again? Yeah.
I got too much shit on me.
Yeah, I got too much shit on me. What if we made you? What if what if you were in Sugar? You might be a little alien angel werewolf. What a show! Yeah. Shout out to Sugar.
And again, like as you say, Farrell is one of those generation of actors who's like, yeah, I'm a weird little freak. I'm like, I want to be a character actor. I'm a character actor trapped in a leading man's body, which kind of sucks for character actors because now you're competing with like, what if you but handsome? What if you but conventionally attractive?
Well, you know what? We need to get. Oh,
sorry, we do. You do. Sorry.
No. We need to get Farrell over to the set of Odyssey to join the rest of those little freaks.
Yeah, he hasn't done a Nolan. Actually, there's an interesting one. Yeah,
he hasn't done a Nolan movie. What's going on there? Dig into it. Do a little
Nolan only has room for one Irishman. Yeah, there.
Yeah, that's it. it's in Killian's rider. You can't
contract.
Yes, and sorry, Jesse. I know you said you have a hard out. We're just still reading these, so we'll eventually.
No
if you need to bounce at any time, just run away and screen people your address to where to find you. Not like your home address. Well, where's your home address? Don't worry, guys. I'm gonna stop the music. I'm gonna wrap this up quick. Don't worry, guys. Just stop the music. I've done this before. I've finished podcasts before. Snake in the Garden, €5 dono. Thank you so much, Snake. Actor speeches are are proof that screenwriting should be the #1 award. Oscars can learn a lot from musicians thanking fans when they win and not their fucking agents. I think everyone understands that like movies start at the script, but I feel like more people need to understand that movies start at the script. And that,
I mean, there was always the thing where the screenwriting Oscar was the cool Oscar. Like that was up until maybe it stopped recently, but like I remember Tarantino winning for Pulp Fiction. Like it was always like if you look at the best screenplay Oscars, those are always more interesting winners generally than the actual best picture winners.
Mm-hmm. You know what should have won this year? Flow. What a script. That was a little joke because the animals don't make any noises. Well, they make noises. They don't say words. And the movie still clearly had a screenplay. That was
I was about to say that. I do love the idea of just gathering a bunch of animators in a room and going,
fuck it, let's see what happens.
And then the cat says meow.
Someone's just like, I spent a long time on a capybara, and one's like, oh, I think I have a scene ascending to heaven. Can we put these together?
What noise does a capybara make?
Can we smash these together?
Oh yeah, you know that you heard that, Jesse. Yeah, where it's like they discovered that the noise the capybara makes isn't cute enough, so they changed it.
But they could say that that's what a capybara sounds like in Latvian. You know how like the noise for what an animal makes is different in like Japanese to Spanish to English. Yeah. Quintuple A with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Quintuple. Small dono for the wrestling sidebar. We got to bring that back. Listen, Darren, you're not going to be here for the next episode, so Jesse.
Yeah, so all wrestling all the time.
I would be down for a wrestling podcast.
WrestleCast. Beast March with a $5 dono. Thank you so much, Beast March. The Fast and the Furious movies are dumb. Wrestling is dumb. Yay for dumbness. I agree. Listen, if we're going to have highbrow, like in order to appreciate the highbrow, you need to appreciate the lowbrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this
Steven Soderbergh way.
The problem is that like some of the Fast and Furious movies are also bad. Like that's the thing. It's like some of them are dumb and good, and some of them are dumb and bad. The dumbness has no correlation to quality. Like that is the thing about it. It's much like smartness has no correlation to quality. But sorry, Jesse.
They are hilarious. I'm agreeing. It's great.
I love Tokyo Drift. I just want them to drift. There's a drift king. And I like that you could kill someone's family members, but then at the end of the movie, you could share a little Corona and everything's fine. Yeah. Everything's fine. Sussy Guru with a €5 dono. Thank you so much, Sussy Guru. Next time, I want Conan to not just do the opening, but also the awards and all of the acceptance speeches. I'm sure he'd be fine. Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
Should he also be the entire audience as well?
Yeah. Listen, now we're speaking my language.
Multiplicity him. Yeah.
Oh, God. Remember Multiplicity?
Yeah. That movie won the screenplay Oscar, right?
That can't be true because it was cool. Because it was a cool movie there. It was like, what if there was a bunch of Michael Keatons? CSI Freak with a £5 dono. Thank you so much, CSI Freak. Have you guys seen Sing Sing? What are your opinions on Coleman Domingo? I thought Sing Sing was beautiful. Yeah, and I thought he was phenomenal.
He's phenomenal in general. Like he's one of those guys who just seems like everything he does is absolutely incredible and like great to see him getting the love that he deserves, where it seems like he's been the actor's actor hanging around. I will say, did you watch what's the Variety's actor and actor he did with Kieran Culkin?
Yeah.
It's just one of the great, like these two great actors have very different energies where like they're like, what? So you've got a 6 a.m. call. What time are you getting out of bed? And Coleman Domingo's like, well, I got to get up at 4. I got to make sure I know my lines. I got to be on set. Got to be ready. Got to be there an hour beforehand. And Kieran Culkin's like, I'm thinking maybe 5:06, maybe 10:06. Yeah.
I rush to the car and I'm late and I don't shower and I just throw something.
I'm having a coffee. Yeah, I'm having a coffee. Yeah. I kind of cough as I go.
And Coleman Domingo is like genuinely like shuddering at the thought of that. And I'm like, ooh.
Not being prepared, like not having like had his cup of coffee at his island before he's gotten into work. Not having like sat down with the notes for the day.
Yeah, get these two at the same movie. Yeah, they had one of the things I like about the awards, the road to the awards, is that you find these like weird pairings that have chemistry, and I'm always like, ooh, get them in a thing together. Yeah, like, I like this chemistry.
Yeah.
Lampy with a £5 dono. Thank you so much, Lampy. Just got here. What did I miss? Also, happy Mardi Gras Day. Lampy, happy Mardi Gras to you too.
Happy Marty Day.
You know what? Happy Mardi Day, everyone. I was trying to think if the letters. It's a Marty party. Oh no, I'm worried. Can't have a lemon bar. No, we don't need no badges with a $2 dono.
Severance very good. Enjoying the second season of Severance.
Oh no, we don't need no badges. $2 dono. Thank you so much. Shout out to Seed of the Sacred Fig and No Other Land. Yeah, I thought both of those were phenomenal. No Other Land was actually the only of the 5 documentaries that I had seen.
And an incredible and timely win again. Like I think, like, again, not to reference the big picture, like Amanda Dobbins talked about like how depressing it is to watch the documentary nominees because of the state of the world right now, where like every documentary is about some sort of nightmarish thing that is happening somewhere on Earth, and how exhausting it is to like, just to watch that. And again, that's the first world problem, of course, but it is bleak. It is bleak.
Yeah. Also, everyone's just listening to the big picture. It's a great podcast.
Yeah.
So there you go. And then King Dead with $5 dono. Thank you so much, King Dead. Do you think the upcoming Fantastic Four movie, will try to drop nostalgia for Fan-Four-tastic? I don't think this upcoming movie, but I do think, like, I would be shocked if Miles Teller isn't in
Secret Wars.
Doomsday.
Interesting. You think? I think it's maybe too early. I think we're too early on the curve for that. Much like I think, like, we're still on the Bryan Singer X-Men nostalgia. We're not quite on the James McAvoy and kind of like Michael Fassbender nostalgia yet. I feel like maybe we haven't got to the point where we're like nostalgic for Fantastic, but
yeah. I mean, obviously they've already started with not the original, but the early 2000s Fantastic Four with Chris Evans as Human Torch and Deadpool. But yeah, I don't know if we'll see Jessica Alba or what's his name, the Shield.
Yeah. Ian Gruffett, Owen Gruffett.
No,
Michael Chiklis. Michael
Chiklis. I like his name. I also forgot Ian Gruffett's name. So I'm gonna be honest, I only know two of the people in that movie, and I also don't know who played Doctor Doom in that movie.
Julian McMahon, who was a Nip Tuck, one of Australia's great national treasures.
Julian McMahon. Was he of the wrestling McMahons?
No, in no way associated with
Jesse.
just to be clear. Just to be clear.
Let me look up what the McMahons have been up to lately. Oh no! Close that window.
Speaking of documentaries that will make you feel good, yeah.
Yeah, the Netflix McMahon documentary. Yeah. Yikes! Big ol' yikes there. Wonderful. Jesse, before you go, is there anything you've been watching that you wanna touch on?
Let's see. I have been watching through the Rocky movies again. I'm currently through Rocky 5. I'm gonna watch Balboa tonight. Those movies are dumb. They're so dumb. They're fun. Every movie is about how Rocky is too old. Love it.
I like how they were able to get several movies where it's like, Rock, you're too old to do this.
Yeah,
no, but this time you're really too old.
Yeah.
When you watch Rocky 4, did you watch the Stallone cut or the theatrical cut?
Originally watched the theatrical cut. The plan is so the group of friends I'm watching it with, we're gonna take a break after Balboa, then we go back to watch the Creed movies, but we're gonna watch the director's cut of Rocky 4. Before that, actually, speaking of the question earlier, Rocky 4, that was one movie where when I first watched it, I enjoyed it because it's dumb, quotable. But watching it again, I'm like, no, this is dumb and bad. I can see why Stallone would want to rework it, and it's even funny in Rocky 5 when Rocky comes back and it's it's been like maybe like a few months and his kids growing up. They don't talk about the robot, and it's
well, the robot is removed from the director's cut, like one of the coward's choices that he makes. I mean, the movie is like 90% montage from my memory of Rocky 4.
Yeah, it is nothing but like hearts on fire. And granted, Rocky 3, you could have a drinking game every time they mention Eye of the Tiger. But it's definitely the Rocky 3 was very hollow, but it was so fun. Rocky 4 is just, I feel like take a lot of the it's just straight up pure 80s, but kind of the bad part of it. And then Rocky 5 is a complete tonal shift. It is very clearly post. Yeah, it's very post Die Hard action film. And that one I liked a lot more watching it a second time. Despite its issues, it definitely has its fair share of issues. But they definitely decided to go back to a more Rocky, kind of more along the lines of Rocky 2, right? Where it's kind of a retread, but still some interesting ideas and concepts in there. I've only seen the 5 Rocky films prior to, so Balboa is my first time watching. So I'll keep you all. Balboa? My first time, so I'll keep all up to date on maybe I'll post on my Blue Sky.
Have you seen the Creeds?
I have not, so I'm very excited.
Any of the Creeds?
I watched the original 5 a ton growing up.
Okay.
I just for some reason Creed never got around to it.
I'm weirdly the opposite. I saw Rocky 1, and then I saw Rocky Balboa in theaters and the Creed movies in theaters, and I've still not seen Rockies 2 through 5.
Oh no.
Balboa and Creed are incredible.
Balboa and Creed
are both the perfect Lego sequel. It's incredible the franchise did it twice. Now, to be fair, you get Creed 2, where Rocky's plot is what if he complains about street lamps? But you get Rocky Balboa and Creed, and it's those are two perfect Lego sequels. Those are the two perfect places to leave Rocky.
Speaking of aging characters, Sussy Guru with a 5-year Odono. Thank you so much. I think 3 of the Star Trek TMP, the motion picture era, What's TMP? Star Trek TMP, the motion picture?
TMP is the motion picture, yeah.
Okay. I think 3 of the Star Trek TMP era movies were about how Kirk is too old, specifically 1, 2, and 6.
Well, 2 and 6 are directed by Nicholas Mayer. So like that makes sense that they've returned to the theme. And the thing that is interesting about that is that like because of the nature of these movies where each movie reacts to the previous one. So one is like Kirk is old, but he's still got it. Like if you've read the novelization, which was written by Gene Roddenberry, who was the creator of Star Trek, there is a chapter in the novel where Kirk is like, my new first officer's girlfriend has been replaced by a robot. We need to break. No, wait for it, Marty. We need to break the programming. Only love can do that. So I need to make a decision here and now. Am I going to let my naive young first officer, like with his pre-existing relationship, break the programming? Or am I, Kirk, love god, who knows his way around a woman's body like no other human being, going to have to step in and do this myself? There's honestly a chapter in the novelization that's like, which one of us is going to fuck the robot? Is it going to be me or is it going to be him? And Kirk's like, I'm a bigger man. I'm going to step aside. 2 is in reaction to 1, where like 1 is, you know, not massively commercially successful, not critically successful. So 2 is like, well, maybe we put these guys out to pasture. But 2 is so massively financially successful that 3 ends up being like, no, they're not too old at all. It's like, 3 is like, nah, they're all young and excited again. They're reborn. They're hip and cool and with it. Like the 4th film, the second film opens with like Kirk getting a set of reading glasses from McCoy to symbolize his age, and the 4th film has him pawning those for walking round money, which gives you a sense of like, yeah. And then 6 obviously is the actual last movie starring like William Shatner as Kirk, allowing for his cameo in Generations, and that movie is very much like, yeah, but the next generation is on TV. So maybe these guys are a bit old, you know?
It's a bit. What a weird series.
All right, I do need to head out, so if you want to continue on, but feel free to keep talking.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. A lot of fun.
Bye, Jesse.
Yes.
I think I'm sure Eric can fix this. Eric knows what's going on. Yeah, we won't be too much longer. But Darren, what have you seen? What should folks check out?
Mickey 17, which I saw this morning, which I quite enjoyed. Like, again, it's very much in the spirit of Okja rather than the spirit of Parasite. It's very broad. It kind of runs into issues where it has to decide whether it's going to be just a vibes movie or it's going to be an actual movie with a plot. And it occasionally, like, those two things brush up against one another, where it ends up having these big extended expository flashbacks. But it is mostly this kind of big, cartoonish, campy science fiction, the style that you don't really get anymore. That in some ways reminded me a lot of like Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers, which is a great thing to remind me of. So I really enjoyed that.
Do you think how do you think that movie's going? I mean, it's not your place. How do you think that movie's going to do, and how do you think that movie's going to be received just by audiences?
I think it will be well received by the people who see it. I think it's going to be a very tough sell to general audiences, and I don't know how I would handicap its Oscar chances next year, which is something I see people talking about. But having seen it, it's like, this is not Parasite. This is Okja. Like, this is, and I say that as somebody who liked Okja a great deal. Like, I like this movie a great deal, but it's also not a movie that, like, if I recommended this to my parents, it would be a bold, controversial recommendation, as opposed to Parasite, which you can recommend to anyone, you know?
I haven't even seen like a lot of ads for it. Granted, I don't watch like terrestrial TV that often, but I just don't. And I guess I don't see ads on anything, so maybe that's why I don't see ads.
Hey, you have YouTube Premium.
I have YouTube Premium, exactly. But it is one thing I always feel, going back to the Oscars quick, is I'm always surprised how few movie trailers are during the Oscars. Yeah. Like, there was the Ballerina, the upcoming John Wick spinoff with Andre de Armas, and then there was another action movie. But whatever, during the telecast there were 2 trailers. Yeah. And I'm like, this feels like they should kind of treat it like a mini Super Bowl, to where we should get a new Superman trailer during this, or we should get a new trailer for, like, doesn't have to be a Jurassic Park or Marvel movie, like maybe something higher brow, like maybe, I don't know, but maybe it's a bad time of year to, like, can't really show a trailer for like one of the fall movies.
That's it exactly, I reckon. And also we probably don't know what the fall movies that break through are going to be. And I think like part of it is also the fact that, like, given the diminished cultural standing of the Oscars, the people who are watching the Oscars already know all the movies that are coming up, whereas the people who are watching the Super Bowl may not be movie people, and therefore the priority is getting the the ads in front of them, I reckon. I do also think like a lot of the, as you say, a lot of it's SpawnCon. A lot of the movie advertisement is within the structure of the show. You mentioned the James Bond montage, the Ziegler and Gadot stuff, for
Snow
example.
White thing, yeah.
Like all that stuff is designed to remind you that those movies are coming, but it's integrated into the show in a way that you can't integrate it into the Super Bowl. As much fun as it would be to like have, I don't know, the Green Bay Packers dress in like Anthony Mackie's super suit or whatever.
I mean, they already they do it. Nickelodeon has those broadcasts of the things where they'll like superimpose like Nickelodeon slime falling during a live game, or they had a full live game that was all the Simpsons.
Well, yeah, that's it. The ABC, the Disney stuff was like, didn't they do a couple of years ago?
Story,
they did Toy Story. Yeah.
What a nightmare!
But that's the future. In terms of like other stuff, I watched Presence by Soderbergh. Yourself and Jack talked about it, like a really great movie. I watched, because it's on Criterion. Criterion have a collection of old David Cronenberg movies, so I'm filling in gaps I haven't seen there. So I watched Rabid, which is like his weird vampire zombie apocalypse movie where a woman grows like a clitoris or a penis under her arm that feeds on human blood. So typical David Cronenberg stuff. It's just really good, really low budget midnight madness kind of stuff that is very revealing of like Cronenberg stuff, where like, even though this is obviously by his own estimation a work for hire job where he was hired to write a script and make a movie for as little money as possible as quickly as possible, there are still things where you can get a sense of like a character holding up a Sigmund Freud book or talking about how her father sent her to a cosmetic surgery place to have her nose shrunk, and it's like, okay, so this is proper Cronenbergian, and not just in the body horror aspect in terms of like the complicated relationship he has with his Jewish identity as a public persona, but even things like the fact that the vampire apocalypse sex virus thing originates at a cosmetic surgery retreat, which is also very Cronenberg. Yeah, it's like, it is, as much as it is light, disposable Cronenberg, it's still Cronenberg, and it's always fascinating when you go back and watch an old movie from a director and you're like, oh yeah, that was there from the beginning.
And this isn't something he picked up along the way. Like it's been there the entire time. I took in college, I took a David Cronenberg class. Let me tell you, college was weird. I was just like, I want to take this thing because it looks cool. And we one of the first weeks we watched Rabid for the first time, and several people got up and walked out halfway through. And I'm like, what did you think this class was gonna be? Like, do you know who this man is? What did you expect?
I was really looking forward to a most dangerous method.
I thought they were going to be romantic, like A History of Violence.
M. Butterfly. Like, just a nice,
Speaking of what happened to that movie? You saw it at
The Shrouds, which just doesn't exist. The Shrouds, which just doesn't exist, and is like really sweet and got really bad reviews, but I really liked. But like, really charming movie. Again, about the death of his wife. A lot of that going around, where Megalopolis is obviously like informed, whether retroactively, by the death of Coppola's wife, and there was another one as well that was very similar to that as well, which has similar kind of like, my wife has died, I'm making a movie about it vibe. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. I'm going to feel very embarrassed when I do remember it. But The Shrouds is very much like, a part of me is dead and missing, and a part of me is lost and buried, and it's just this really sad, really melancholy, really low budget, really like, I'm just hanging out with my man Vincent Cassel and Diane Kruger, but I had a really, really good time with it. I thought it was very, very interesting and very personal, and very like, to that point about like watching something like Alien Covenant, goodness forbid, or like The Counselor, and being like, actually this is a director going through some stuff.
And if you know that, it kind of adds a layer of texture to the movie itself. Well, what is that? That was almost a year ago you saw it. What's going on? Let's put this out.
And it doesn't have any distribution yet, which is wild. And particularly given it originated, I think, as a Netflix TV show. Like, that was the plan. It was going to, and the movie kind of ends in a way where it's like, I could follow this guy's adventures for another 13 episodes, I guess. But now I guess this is all I'm getting of him. But like it just disappeared. And same thing happened with like Paul Schrader's. That's it. It's Paul Schrader. That's the other guy who.
Canada.
Canada, which I think did get a release eventually, but was another one that at the festival didn't get a great reception and didn't get a distributor. But it's also about like Paul Schrader's wife being in assisted care and kind of living. So Eric's pointing out there the Shrouds is releasing in the from Janus Films, the guys who own Criterion.
April 25th. That's soon.
Yeah. So
all Shrouds. We're gonna have Shrouds Week.
Like Willow Week.
Are you guys gonna talk about Andor or The Last of Us, the new seasons? No, we're talking all Shrouds this week.
All Shrouds all the time. Shrouds and Proud, baby. Shroud and Proud. But in terms of other stuff, I mentioned I rewatched Andor, which is great. Just holds up really, really, really well. I saw The Electric State. I can't talk about that yet. To be fair,
is that going to get theatrical release, or is that going to be straight to Netflix? Do you know? I mean, I'm sure you were able to see it in theaters, but
it's no. I got a kind of a screener of it. It is. It's on Netflix next Friday. So while I'm away on holiday, that may be an article you're getting, whether you like it or not, Marty. And then the To Be Fair recommendation is the Doctor Who box set of John Pertwee's first season from 1970 was recently released in the UK. So I've been watching my way through that. 1970s Doctor Who, a good glimpse into like British psychosis. And I would argue the first 4 episodes of that, which are Spearhead from Space, are maybe like the best introduction to classic Doctor Who you could ask for, because like it's a very simple narrative, it's very accessible, it's 4 episodes, it's short, and because of like strikes that were taking place in the UK at the same time, the sets were not available, so it had to be all shot on location and all shot on film, so it actually looks really good in high definition. But the entire classic Doctor Who is on Tubi, so if you want, you can check out John Pertwee's first season, starting with Spearhead from Space. That is on Tubi. That is my To Be Fair recommendation. Jack is here in spirit, if not in person.
Jack is too busy inside of his spreadsheet trying to figure out who has spoken the most compared to the movie like that they won for.
I believe he's begun writing on the wall, like the style of, again, we mentioned at the start, like movies that you could count down using numbers, in the style of the number 23, Jim Carrey style. He's like, yeah.
In the style of the number 23. That's like a weird, like when you're like in a you choose a karaoke song and it's the song name and then in the style of I love that. That is
Nickel Boys in the style of the number 23.
What a pairing. Listen, if number 23 was all shot first person, I think that'd be great.
That was the one problem you had with that movie, was the third person perspective. Other than that,
didn't have enough Dr. Robotnik in it. That's the other problem. We needed Dr. Eggman in that movie from Sonic. Wonderful. Yeah, I don't have anything new big. I was just I'm finishing my Daredevil rewatch. I rewatched / caught up on the rest of the Oscar movies that I didn't see. In terms of rewatch, I think I'm going to be after Daredevil. I'm going to rewatch Andor season 1 and The Last of Us season 1. Which looking forward to both those shows. I like that there's a couple good spring shows coming up.
Well, again, like this thing like Severance, where it's like I don't mind how long it takes you to release another season if your first season was good enough that I won't mind rewatching it.
Yeah, I feel like we should maybe like once the Severance season is over, do like a spoiler chat on it in some part of an episode.
So good.
I've really been enjoying it. Like it is week to week. Like, do I like every weekend tuning into this thing?
And like actual episodes as well. Like it's a serialized narrative, but each of the episodes is like you can recommend it on its own terms because it is doing its own thing. And you're like, every week I'm like, that was a damn good episode of television.
Yeah. And having episodes that feel kind of singular and different. It doesn't feel like that. I always talk about when like something like Stranger Things comes out, I jam through it in like 2 sittings and it all just gobbles up in my head. I have no idea what happened in one episode compared to another. Whereas this, like the events of the episode where they go on their outdoor retreat
Woe's
is
Hollow,
like so singular in my mind compared to what happened last week.
The season premiere or anything.
Yeah, really great. Definitely recommend if folks haven't seen Severance. Get on that Apple Plus. Apple's honestly probably the streaming service I could recommend the most. It just feels like there's something interesting on there at any given moment. They take big swings where it feels like everyone else is slowing down their swings.
Like Mythic Quest, and again, that's on. Like, and I talked about it before. It's fantastic. It's ending in a couple of weeks. It's also fantastic. Like Mythic Quest, consistently, like just really, really good, and like so good it makes what it's doing look effortless. So you tend to take it for granted, but like just having a great time. And if you haven't seen Mythic Quest, it's phenomenal. It's really great.
And then of course everyone watch Paradise because you got to figure out what's going on in Paradise.
Well, that's on a different streaming service, Mark.
That's on Hulu. That'll cut off before the last 10 minutes.
My brother texts, again, this is the thing with the Mooney family chat where they're all watching stuff that I'm vaguely aware of, where it's like Yellowstone and Landman like 24/7. But like Paradise is broken out, to give credit to the Dan Fogler. Paradise is broken out.
Yeah. Oh my God, people love it. I'm always just like, watch the first episode and then get back to me. And they're like, what?
That's really why Jack isn't here, because like a couple of weeks ago you're like, just watch the first episode, and now he's paradise pilled.
He's paradise pilled. He got worried. He's like, maybe I need to build myself a little paradise. Get worried. Awesome.
Oh fuck! They end the first episode with another day in paradise, don't they?
They do. Yeah. It's so spot on. It is so spot on.
Spot on is one way of describing it. Yes.
Listen, we both said something. We've said before, subtext is for cowards. So just fucking put it right there. Say what you mean. What a truly dumb show. Got renewed for a second season, so everything's great.
Sterling K. Brown is great. Like this is the thing with. Sorry, I know we need to wrap up, but like Sterling K. Brown, like one of the greatest actors of his generation. I believe that when he first appeared. Mm-hmm. I believe it now. But it is incredible that he's just like, I'm gonna do what I want to do.
He was seated. I guess he also he presented at the Oscars. I was gonna say, but he was seated directly behind. It was Demi Moore or someone they were cutting to in the crowd very often. And part of me was like, why is he so... And I'm like, oh, this is ABC. This is them being like, we're going to put our boy. And so you're going to see him every time we show one of the people that we know we're going to cut to all the time.
Yeah, but like that is the thing, is that like he's so good. And like I remember he appeared around about like 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was the People versus O.J. Simpson, where he's phenomenal in that show. And I was like, this is going to be like one of the greatest actors of our generation. And every time I've seen him, even in nonsense like The Predator, he's still phenomenal. But it is like watching Michael Jordan play children's basketball. Most of the stuff that Sterling K. Brown chooses to do.
That's a good. Yeah, it's a really good way to put it. Every once in a while, you get like an American Fiction where you're like, oh, okay, you're actually like meeting somebody. Was that the same Predator movie that Adrian Brody was in? Or was that the different?
No, that's Predators. That was the one before that.
It's almost like we should name these things differently so that it's easier to tell what we're talking about.
Again, like the Fast and Furious, like there is a quiz show round in my head of just like name these movie franchises in order, and it's just like Predator and Fast and Furious.
But we do the same things with in video games. It'll just be like Doom came out in 1993, and in 2016, a new game called Doom is coming out. I'm like, what? Give it a different title. Like, what are we doing?
Well, this is Google. This was a horror thing as well, where like you have Halloween. You have Halloween 2009. You have Halloween 2018.
Oh God,
yeah. You have like Scream. You have Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, and then you have Scream. Not even like 5 Cream, which is the obvious thing to do there.
I don't like the word 5 Cream at all.
But
I like the visual of 5 Cream. Yeah. I don't want to say I like the visual of 5 Cream at all, because that sounds even worse. Saying I like 5 Cream.
That's what Demi Moore rubs on her body in The Substance, isn't it?
It's a bunch of 5 Cream. But don't worry, you are the same person. I think
you are one.
You are one. That'll do it for us. Listen, I think about the green of The Substance quite a bit now. Just like that flavor of green.
Have you seen Coralie Farget's? Sorry, I know we need to wrap up. Have you seen Coralie Farget's Revenge? Or Revolver?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Like another like textile movie. Like it's so great that those movies feel tactile and visual and memorable, but also disgusting. Like they're beautiful and also horrific simultaneously.
I saw, I think it was during the Oscars, like when they were, they sort of show a little montage of all 10 movies throughout the Best Picture nominees throughout the show. They showed some of the behind the scenes, and they built on a soundstage. They built her apartment with those big windows, and they built the billboard. That you see. Yeah. And so like all of that is like practical. Like all of that is real. And in my mind, I was like, well, that's
not CGI.
Like, and this was all just practical in a big ass warehouse. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to see what she does next. Holy moly. Yeah. What a good movie. Also think about that green. They should just release The Substance as like a drink. That's just Mountain Dew, right? Nick has one substance a day. Oh God, what a nightmare thing to put in your body. Darren, what should folks check out in your neck of the woods? Where can folks find you?
At Darren_Mooney on Twitter, Darren.Mooney on Blue Sky. I'm also writing, obviously, for our Patreon, 3 columns a week. I am going on holiday, so I won't be back here next week, but I have got my columns covered. Also, next week we'll be releasing an episode of The Backdrop covering Daredevil Born Again, when I can actually talk about it in like 5 hours from now. And I am hoping to get one done myself for when I'm away. And I'm kind of working on what that one will be. So you can find me at all that stuff. So just check me out there. Perfect.
Yeah, you've got your own podcast as well?
Oh, the 250 with the wonderful Andrew Quinn. I still need to get yourself and Jack on it. That is something to do when I get back from holidays and my life is not kind of in the state of like permanent chaos. But yeah, you can follow that. We're on Stitcher and SoundCloud, wherever good podcasts are found. Thank you so much, Eric. Last week we talked about Demon Slayer. This
and I saw the anime version of the image.
Yes, goodness forbid. From the wonderful, is it Amy Lou Carroll? Like again, a really wonderful Irish artist did that for us. She signed it as well. Like it's really nice. So we talked about like the Demon Slayer, the repackaging of 4 episodes of the anime Demon Slayer and releasing it in theaters is the 221st best movie of all time. Thank you. Eric is zooming in. I appreciate that. So you could check that out if you want. And then this week we'll be talking about like A Man Escaped, a very different movie from Robert Bresson, a French movie from 1957 with the wonderful Brendan Hodges.
I want to see the top 10 tonal whiplashes between 2 episodes because that's got to be up there. That's got to be up there.
Oh no! Like the past 3 have been 365 days. The third one, the Demon Slayer movie. We're going into like A Man Escaped. So it's that list is a very interesting list, is how I would describe the IMDb top and bottom lists.
Yeah, they like all of us. They contain multitudes, which is beautiful. Awesome. And then on Second Wind's front, Nick and Jenna will be back in 45 minutes. They'll be playing some Monster Hunter. Tomorrow we'll fully Ramblematic, Yahtzee Tries, and then in the Metroid slot in the evening will also be more Monster Hunter with Casey and Jess and Jay. We got Firelink the normal time on Thursday evening, all that good stuff. And then I'll probably be back this evening on my personal Twitch channel, twitch.tv/McBiggity, and I'll be streaming a little more Chrono Trigger. So hell yeah. And Eric pulled up that anime image, which is delightful. Just a delightful image. Absolutely. So for Darren and Jesse and Eric, this was Marty. This was the Rewind episode number 16. Thank you all so much, as always, for tuning in. Special thanks to all of our patrons over there. Remember that $5 tier, you get weekly columns, 3 columns a week from Darren and 1 column a week from me. So hell yeah. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoons, and we'll see you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.